Here we go.
G'day, fans. It's me again. Welcome you all back to good old Rip It Off the Card. Now, you're probably wondering, where is the big A? And I don't mean like the Big Apple in New York or anything like that. I'm talking about the other big A's, almost the size of New York at the moment. You've got to be wondering, where is the lad? I mean, all these people have joined in right now going, where is he? Where is Mr. Aaron? It can't be me by myself again. Well, as it turned out, Aaron has returned. He's currently waiting in the green room at the moment, and he's feeling a bit green around the gills because he's been a sick puppy for almost 2 weeks. And the reason, as we've discovered why he's sick, is because he's just been binging too many Jodie Whittaker Docky Who eps. Dude, mate, that'll bring up anybody's lunch. So with that in mind, what can I say? I've got to bring the lad back. He's very exciting. Hey there, no, Aaron, you're just going to be a bit patient, Mr. Colin. He's almost here. Welcome, everybody, to the lad.
Well, I always knew you thought that I was a big A, but now you've gone on record of saying it.
Well done. Now, everybody, yeah, exactly right. Rusky Babes, where's the ostrich? Well, she's stuck his head up, and there he is. Look at that. How you feeling, Mr. Aaron? 2 weeks of being as sick as a woofer. What's the deal?
Well, I still have the super flu, so it's like one of those little golden books. You know, every time you hear R2D2 beep, turn the page. Every time you hear your host cough up phlegm, we'll just go to the next segment, I think.
Absolutely love it. Oh, no green. Yes, exactly right. Look, Carol's welcoming you back. Everybody's welcoming you back. Oh, look at this welcome back. Oh, goodness gracious, Drew. Look at that. So you're the coolest dude around. I've always said that.
Well, no, I watched last week, and I thought everyone who was on the show last week was particularly good. It was good to see Gavin, and good to see the Vile and Greg King in person, and Jethro's always fun, isn't he? So that was pretty cool. And always welcome is MPS as well. Like, I think we'll have to get them all back on individually at some point.
Speaking of the Vile, one thing that did occur, aside from our show being violated last week, well, Store got violated as the Vile himself actually popped in on the Saturday, and which of course you weren't there for because you're too busy losing your lunch at home. But there you go, dude.
Is this like a Clark Kent Superman thing where me and the Vile have never been seen together at the same time?
Maybe that's it, fans. The Vile and Aaron are one in the same. I tell you what, that is a very, very groovy. Yes, very good. He was expecting silicon green skin. Yay, hey, guys, said, look at that. Welcome back. Oh, mate, everybody's like, if I took a day off, then nobody would even notice. So there you go. But no, well done, old son. Now, the funny thing is, of course, sorry, what?
I was just saying, thanks, guys.
Yeah, no, good stuff. You know why they're all sucking up? Because the next time they come into the store, they go, you remember I was the one who said, welcome back, Aaron. I'll give you like an 85% discount in the store. Speaking of the store, one of the things that has actually occurred recently is the pop invasion. So, yeah, forget your Beetle mate. This is the pop invasion. His store is like crawling full of those damn pop vinyls. Dude, what is the deal with that?
I don't know. I actually had a conversation with other staff members saying, we've got enough pops. I don't want to become a zing. I don't want a lot of pop vinyls. We won't be buying any more pops. And then I bought a couple, breaking my own rule. And of course, as soon as you do that in front of the plebs, they all start buying them. So while I was homesick, Chad bought 100. Someone saw we were buying pops again. Chad bought another 20 or 30. It's the shop is popping full of pops. I think we've got 10% off of pops at the moment. If you want any of these amazing and not at all useless toys, come in because we've got a really good selection at the moment.
Mate, the solution's easy. Buy one, get 50 free. So there you go. And in fact, I was in the store when Chad bought the extra 20 or 30, and I'm in the back just doing my stuff thinking, oh, dude, what are you doing? Now, for people who are watching this show who aren't really au fait with what we're talking about, and we haven't done this for quite some time, Aaron, of course, has his own collectible store. It's currently diseased at the moment because whenever I go in there, Aaron, he just cops up all over the place. But those who've never seen it before, this is what it looks like. It's Shop 3, number 1, Main Street in Blackburn. And if you're interested in checking out the pops, then a way to go is that's where you need to go and have a look and see what you think. But the store is full of groovy stuff at the moment, except for Aaron, of course, himself is groovy, but he's not there. When do you go back, dude? Do you go back tomorrow or next month or next year or what?
I was back today and did a half day because I infected enough people. I infected my quota, so came home. I've got to be well for the weekend because I've got tickets to Thor on Saturday, but more importantly, at the Astor, there's a Dalek double feature from 1:30. So anyone who wants to come along to that and join me watching that live and maybe get some flu action, I'm sure Dags will be there, loving Doctor Who as you do.
Mate, double Dalek action. I tell you what, the Docky Who, oh, that's the way to go. Oh, woohoo. Sonic screwdrivers are plenty.
That's an adult parody that hasn't been made yet. Double Dalek action. Watch what they do with those plunges.
Debbie does Daleks. What can I say? Very, very cool. Greg is saying, how much are you paying for us to take a pop? I tell you what. In fact, I even when Chad went and nicked out last week, I thought, I'm in the store by myself. I thought I'd just walk out and just say 95% off everything for the next 10 minutes, especially the pops. So, yes. And you are right, Mr. Guy. Once you pop, you cannot stop. That is the key thing. So, but anyway, we've got the show back tonight. Everything's back to normal. It's all very good, very, very exciting, which means we've got all our regular segments. And there's some very interesting stuff coming up regarding Greg King's Cheaper Things. And for 30 seconds before we went on air, I think Aaron actually received an item from our good friend, Mr. Ronnie. And I don't even know what it is, but we'll discuss that when we get to that point. But before that, I guess we're going to kick it off with some exciting things. Oh, speaking of the old Docky Who, let's get into it. It's time for a little bit of this. Good stuff. Here we go. Very, very cool. Even Wolf said, yep, yeah, woohoo, Aaron is here. So everybody loves it when you're here. And if I, as was mentioned earlier, if I'm not around, nobody would notice me. And even Chrissy said it'd just be too quiet. But that's probably not a bad thing. But very good. So there you go. Welcome back, sir. All right. So what are we discussing tonight, Mr. Aaron? We've got a whole lot of news to get through.
So I sent you some pictures of figures. But one of the things I wanted to do first up, which we don't do much, is live product reviews of something that is in the shops at the moment. And this is going to be of interest to Star Wars fans. Now, I don't know if anyone collects, food items, but this is a Paul's custard. It's Mandalorian custard. It's flavored to taste just like Grogu, I guess. And I thought I would rip it out of the fridge and try it live and give everyone.
Hang on. Whoa. It's flavored like Grogu after he's been run over by a juggernaut.
Well, I don't know if anyone's seen this, but I am a total sucker. If you put Star Wars on anything, I have to buy it, and then food stuff is doubly so.
Now, people who know me would say it's got to be put in the fridge and left there for the next 30 years.
Now,
take a swig, son.
These are the new custards. I didn't have these growing up. My son has them in his lunchbox, where it's like, I guess, a suckable treat. You can see it's.
Hang on. Isn't Grogu a suckable treat?
I didn't say that.
Yeah. Oh, it's going down. Now, remember, fans, he's just recovering from the flu. What could possibly go wrong? You're trying to, you know what you're doing? You're replicating the bit where he had too many macaroons in the ship and he ended up spewing up over himself in the Mandalorian. Oh.
Well, it tastes like Mandalorian custard. So it's got that sort of consistency that anyone who's sucked on a bottle of custard would recognize. It's got the right color, the right flavor, which is vanilla. I think if you gave this to Grogu, he would probably go off the frogs and get on the custard.
Gavin's asked, yes, right. How many squeezed Grogus does it take to make one? So there you go. That's really disgusting, dude.
There you go. So anyone who knows about collectibles, anyone who keeps this perishable stuff in their fridge for years and years and years is nutty, but also it's some of the rarest stuff to get down the track. So if you want something unusual for your collection and you one of those people who wants to put this with their Batmobile in the fridge, you could probably grab some. It isn't too bad.
It's the funny thing is, I mean, like the complete perverse dude in me can't help but think of 1,001 bad jokes. I mean, custard of all things, right? Yellow, creamy. It just conjures up a whole lot of bad images. And even though they may have done it like innocently saying it's a great idea, it's a great product, the reality is that as if you're a bit whacked in the head like I tend to be, you can't help but think, oh, yeah, that's a bit wrong. So
can you imagine poor Pedro Pascal on the production line trying to supply all of that?
Yeah, exactly right. Very, very cool. All right, so Mandalorian custard. Yes, exactly right. Squeeze your Grogus and away you go. What was that? that would explode after too long, even being in the fridge. Well, exactly right. I mean, it is kind of, I mean, I can't imagine someone saying, oh, 30 years from now, oh, here's some Mandalorian Carl. That would be just disgusting. So,
No.
very good.
Right.
Hang on, Gavin said he's still got a Yoda custard from a couple of years, an empty one. Oh, mate, empty's wussy, mate. If you're going to go hardcore, Gavin, you got to go unopened, still sealed. All right, anything that's empty. Anybody can have an empty container. You want the unopened version, the mint and box version. That's what you want.
Yeah. Or rip it off the card.
Or not. So, yes, exactly right. Yes, chunky custard from Australia, you're standing in it. Exactly right. Or as in your case, you just squeeze the living bejesus out of it. Anyway, very good stuff. Well, based on that completely disgusting demonstration that you've given me, yeah, and you are right, Gavin, it is rip it off the card. Yay, team. Let's get on with some news. You have no idea what I'm showing first. So this one is going to excite a couple of people. I thought this was kind of groovy.
Rocketeer,
of course, it is to do with
Rocketeer.
Long Box Heroes Collection. Is that right there, Mr. Aaron?
It is, and Longbox Heroes Collection are bringing out one of those unusual action figures that you don't see a lot of produced. It is, of course, that classic movie, The Rocketeer.
Absolutely. Very, very cool.
So, unfortunately, it isn't probably one of the best action figures I've ever seen, but I thought we'd highlight it just because you don't see really much Rocketeer stuff. Rocketeer, in my opinion, is a massively underrated movie. It's one of my favorites, and to see any merchandise come out, let's face it, 30 years after the movie is really unusual and just goes to show what a popular movie this is with a lot of people. So if you are into the Rocketeer and you like your retro figures, this is coming out shortly.
Absolutely fantastic. I was even at a party one time, for those who've seen the Rocketeer, and a couple of my local nerds who usually know this shit really, really well could not remember the name of Timothy Dalton's character, right? So they turned to the other nerd in the room, which is yours truly, and they said, "Dags, who played Timothy Dalton's character in the Rocketeer? What was his name? And do you remember who it was?"
If they asked you who played Timothy Dalton's character,
No. Yeah, what was his character's name?
Timothy Dalton.
No, idiot. And of course, me being me, straight off, I said Neville Sinclair, because I tell you what, I am in the zone. Never try and out-nerd the nerd. So it was an absolutely. I agree with you. You got that one, the Shadow, and if you want, you can even include chuck in Phantom. But yeah, I got to agree. A huge fan of Rocketeer, and of course, Spankin, not the Spankin that you normally see in this show, but the real Spankin that we saw last week actually has a Rocketeer costume, which I've got to say is particularly groovy. So yes, a very, very cool. Oh, Christy, you didn't cringe the whole time. Oh, you missed the. Oh, Christy. So obviously your Crimson yawns. It was a lot of yawns by the sounds. But,
yeah. So
absolutely
Rocketeer
fantastic.
is fantastic. Yeah, they've never made any of the other characters from the movie though. Just the Rocketeer.
What else would you do? All the others just normal people. That's the thing. So there you go. Very, very cool. And Anne just said about Dick Tracy and Sky Captain. Yeah, Sky Captain we'll talk about another day, a film which was way ahead of its time and absolutely fantastic. All right, so the Rocketeer, if you don't like it, don't worry about it. But if you love it, awesome. And the next thing up, of course, you've got this thing. Now, it didn't say what it was.
So at first I thought, when I saw this come up, maybe it's the dragon from Dragon Slayer, but it's not. It's another from the Godzilla line. It's actually, I had it before. I've just blanked on it.
You're a sick dude. You're allowed to forget things.
It's Rodan. Rodan is one of the other sort of creatures from the Godzilla universe, and it's like the giant, like prehistoric bird. And they have released a couple of these before, but it haven't released one for a while, and it's quite an unusual piece to get. And this is a particularly good one. It's got a lot of detail. The finish on it is really, really good. And it's very posable and comes actually with a clear stand, so you can display it in flying mode, which a lot of these figures you don't get. They've made it seem, I love this because it's an American item, but they've put it at 400 millimeters to trick Americans into thinking that's a much bigger piece than it actually is. Because, they'll think, 40 inches, what an amazing wingspan, where 400 millimeters we know is like 40 centimeters. So this is a great item for anyone who collects, I guess, the Godzilla universe toys.
Just going back to the Rocketeer, Rusky Babes already whipping out the fun factoids. that Dalton character was based on Errol Flynn. I even knew that. I didn't know about the rumors of him being pro-Nazi. I didn't think that was relevant, but they definitely based it on Errol Flynn. That's a bit of a no-brainer. And of course, Mr. Collins hit the nail on the head. Yes, Jennifer Connelly, for a lot of the dudes, was definitely a reason to go and see the movie, which is particularly cool. Very good. Okay, so and the last thing we've got to sort of bring out is some very, very cool. If you like your Black Adams, you can't go past this. Is a shitload of them.
This is true. So a couple of weeks ago, we showed the first, I guess, tease of the action figures that were coming out for the Black Adam movie. Now they've released the first wave, and everyone's excited because there's a whole lot of DC characters that presumably will be in the movie that are in this wave that haven't been on the big screen before. So you've got The Rock playing Black Adam, but you've got Dr. Fate, who I think I remember being in a couple of the TV series, but never seen him in any of the movie versions. And then we've got a couple of the other sort of... so I don't know if anyone is a big DC fan. This was Cyclone, I think, and it's not one of those characters I knew. A lot of people thought that maybe Red Tornado would be in this, but they replaced it with her different version of Black Adam. And so, again, they're quite good-looking figures if you do like the DC universe. This is an awesome one because it's Hawkman, but it reminds me of Bolton from Flash Gordon. I mean...
You beat me to it. That's exactly what I was going to say. Yep.
So this was one of the reasons we highlighted this, because when I went through, I'm like, oh, someone's channeling Brian Blessed with this look for sure. So I'm glad you picked up on that too, Dags.
Go on. So for those who want to type it, Gordon's alive.
Black Adam's alive. And then we've got the Atom Smasher as well, which is another character that I hadn't really heard of. So anyone who's into the DC, this film kind of gets more on board. This is Sabak, another character that I wasn't aware of. He is a Red Demon looking character and also another cool character. And the thing with when you get waves of figures, often you get like one figure that is pretty cool and a whole bunch of duds. I reckon if you're a DC fan and into Black Adam, this is a pretty good all-over wave with some nice-looking figures.
Very good stuff. Oh, my goodness gracious me. All right. Yeah. Rusky Babes is typing into the fun factoids about Errol Flynn. We're not even remotely interested in Errol Flynn, Rusky Babes. We are moving on. We just finished the old Black Adam, which is actually particularly cool. But it's time for, wait for it. Yeah, we're talking about it a minute ago. You got millions of these things in the store. Is this one of them that you've got?
Useless Pop of the Week!
So what have we got now? You made a point of sending through the picture of the item without the box. So yes. I guess that was intentional. Is that right?
Yes, because the crazy thing is this is another one. I don't think anyone would guess what this one was. And what surprised me when I was looking for Useless Pop of the Week, I found this one and Chad laughed and he goes, oh, I bought this in the lot that we got in the week. So if anyone is after this, we have it in the shop. A Useless Pop of the Week.
Yeah, well, there you go. Everybody, as seen on TV. Here we go. Check it out.
So who do you think that is, Dags?
Well, my first, because when I saw the skull, I was thinking Punisher, but it's like, well, clearly it's not. We'll give people a few seconds to, because there's a 7-second delay here to see if they come up with an idea as to who it is. And if someone's got this in the collection, don't cheat, because it means you'll already know the answer.
Maybe it's Errol Flynn, but no.
I was thinking it had something to do with the Phantom, but I thought, no, Kit Walker, because Kit Walker never had a moustache. So Christy said, hang on. Howard Stark from Christy. Rusky Babes, Edgar Allan Poe. Gavin said Constantine. Sorry, dude, what are you going to say?
Well, I was going to say Christy guessed what I guessed. I thought it was Howard Stark because of the look, but didn't get the while it have the skull. But yes, it is. Russell Devlin got it. It is Edgar Allan Poe. It's a historical pop of a old poet.
Alas Poor Yorick. Is that where it's coming from?
Talk about Edgar Allan Poe. No, I don't know. I don't know. Like sometimes when they do the historical ones, it's even harder to get than the pop culture ones because you have an idea of how, historical people look generally from artistic, renderings of them, not because you actually saw them on TV or anything like that. So this one is a particularly weird one to make, I think, because although Edgar Allan Poe is a very famous author and would have a lot of people who love his work. Are they the kind of people who would be looking for a pop version of him to sit in their library?
Christy's asked, where's his Raven? Well, at the moment, got all Aaron's raving on about this particular pop. So that's where the Raven is. So there you go. And I like this one from Rusky Babes. Yeah, he's got a dodgy Ronnie one. So it didn't work out that way. Hang on, wrong button. But oh, here we go. Carol's happy with it. That would look great next to my Vincent Pop Pride. Well, it looks like, Carol, you're heading down to Ballarat. You're in Ballarat. Looks like you're heading down to Blackburn to pick one up, or maybe you can find it on the, what do you call it, on the website. So,
yeah,
what do you reckon about that, Mr. Aaron?
We do have that one in stock, and I was surprised. And yes, that came up, and I thought that is a useless pop.
Yeah, I don't know. It's beyond me. I mean, I'm sort of sick of talking about the damn things, actually, and your store keeps growing the damn. It's almost like you are right. People have said, "Oh, Aaron's is going to buy all these pops. Beauty will just trundle down there, millions bags of the damn things," and just there's always room for one more, as they say. So
the only thing that saved Chad his job is he didn't pay very much for them.
Yes, well, exactly right. Very, very cool. All right, so that is particularly groovy. But now it's time to move on to something rather exciting. Let's get away from the pop crap for a minute, shall we? And get into something particularly cool. Yes, it's Ronnie time. Very good. Now, you've bought something recently. You haven't received a damn thing. Having said that, you received something just before we went on air, and we'll get to that in a second, unless you wanted to cover that off now.
Maybe we'll go through that now, just because it was a surprise to me. When I was setting up the computer to do this in the spare room, there was a box, and I opened the box, and it has one of those dodgy, Greg King's Cheaper Things foam, where if you touch it, foam goes everywhere, and you need to vacuum the place. Now, it's got a stalk with a couple of leaves on.
Now, everybody at home, this is actually live. Like, he hasn't actually opened this yet because he got it just before we went on air.
And it's got another stalk with no leaves on at all. It's looking like bits of Greg King's crinoid costume, actually.
Was there a baby attached to those? Because we all know babies are brought by stalks.
Well, I'm telling you, there's no pot for this. But that ain't too bad.
Oh, how about that? Oh, you're going to be annoyed by that. You don't like products that turn out really, really good. Ronnie, mate, what have you done? You're ruining the show by setting us proper things.
That's disappointing, isn't it? And I can even, let's see if it attaches properly. It looks like it's actually attaching to the stalk. It screws in. Now, I don't know if it really looks as cool as the one on the picture, but after paying for it about 4 times and waiting about 6 months, it's actually turned up. So
it looks like a bit like a cross between a Triffid and North Audrey too, actually, because of the way the stalk is. So
it really does. I think from looking at it, the idea is you get your own pot and you plant your Audrey 2 in it. It doesn't have as many leaves and things as the one that was on the pictures, but you know what? I'll do comparison pictures for next week. So there you go. That's a bit of a preview. That just turned up. I literally opened it, 5 minutes before we went on air.
Not even 5 minutes, dude. It was actually less than a minute. In fact, we actually started a few seconds later than we should have because you were playing with it. But how about that? You actually received something, which is one in itself is a pretty groovy thing, and it's actually quite decent. Oh my goodness gracious me! What's the deal with that? You are right, Greg.
The standard of this segment is dropping.
It's a vaguely decent item. Yeah, well done, and it is. Damn, there you go. Sorry, do I cut you off?
The standard of this segment is dropping when good stuff turns up.
You'll have to have a word to that, Ronnie lad. All right, so there you go. We've got the Audrey 2, but yeah, as you said, you'll get some decent pictures. And there are people, even the Vile, when he walked into your store on Saturday, said, "Where's Greg King's section?" It's over there. Everybody loves looking at it, checking that out.
We do have a lot of people come into the store to look at Greg King's cabinet of shame, and we sold another critter.
Well done. Guy's already asking how much is it, so he hasn't even taken out the box yet.
Well, yeah, I think it cost something like $7, so probably $50.
Yep, I was going to say 50, 60, 70, $80. So don't you worry about that. Aaron's Collectibles, where all the best bargains have an extra digit added on to the price tag. But good
And-
thing is, Guy, that if you buy one, you might get 30 pops chucked in for nothing.
or Mandalorian custard. So
It's used. So you put that in the fridge, it's pointless. So yeah, mate.
I'm
There you go.
I'm a bag half full man myself.
I was going to say, if you get the custard, the next thing you just got to squeeze it a bit more slower. Far out. Bad dags. See, this is what I missed last week. I didn't have you around. I couldn't make any jokes. So
Yeah, I'm a
there you go.
bad influence, aren't I?
Yeah, exactly right. You're right. We need a sign saying Greg King's shame. Yes, indeedy, duty, diety. Very, very cool. I like it, William. You're right. Ronnie fast tracked it so you could review it. So yes, very, very cool.
Yes.
Anyway, we're never going to get this segment finished at this rate. You've bought in the interim while you've received Audrey too. You've actually bought something else.
Yeah. Now, Greg King is one of those people who's a collector, and you've got to collect them all. And when you think of collecting everything, you think of Pokemon. And this came up on my Facebook feed, and it was such a good bargain that I couldn't resist. We've bought statues before, and we've had a 0% hit rate. So this is the type of item we're looking for. It was an 80% off clearance sale today only. Now this is a massive quarter scale. Well, I don't know if it's quarter scale, but it's a massive statue which goes for hundreds of dollars.
I love it when they say today only, and yet the sign will be up for like 5 or 6 weeks.
That's the mark of quality. They stand by their product. So as you can see, it is quite a nice looking statue. It is a big statue. It comes on a large base. It's got multiple Pokemon. It's got Ash as the trainer there. And then you can see through some of the other pictures the detail that is on this statue.
There's no way in the world this is going to look like this when it turns up. Not a hope in hell.
Don't be such a defeatist, Dag. So you can see every one of these is hand painted to a high quality. They're only on sale for one day because they really are worth the $400 US they're charging them, and I think $75 is quite a bargain for this piece. And I have high hopes that when this comes, it will be much better quality than Alice in Wonderland clock, replica Clone Trooper helmets, puzzle cube boxes. I am thinking Pokemon come from Asia. This comes from Asia, so we're onto a winner with this one. What do you think?
I like the way you said it's like being meticulously hand painted. Yeah, that'd be just some like what do you call the sweatshop kids in the back? If 12-year-old blind Tibetan virgin sitting there, they're done out the door.
Isn't the sweatshop kids like an Asian boy band?
And a completely unrelated note, the Vial wants to buy your porg shirt. So there you go. The man needs more porgs in his life. What can I say? But
just imagine if it was Babu Frick up there. I mean, he'd be on his way over.
You would be personally violated as the Vial is licking the bad dags. All right. So yes, I like how you're really optimistic about this particular item coming through. It's going to look. I mean, just the physical size of it is like there's no way in the world it's going to look like that. So. That's if it ever turns up. So there you go.
I think $75 is the most expensive thing I've brought on the Greg King's cheaper things. It's not exactly cheap, $75. So it's got to be good if it's the most expensive of the lot.
Yeah, right. I reckon Ronnie's going to be asking you for about 15 different pay, $9.95, and we'll ship it to you really, really quickly. Now, speaking of Ronnie, now, for those who've been watching the show over the past few months, there's been this long, drawn-out conversation between Ronnie and Aaron regarding the products that he's been sending and receiving, as in like Ronnie's been sending, you've been receiving, and how they didn't look like exactly how they were pictured. Funnily enough, we've just seen an item that looks particularly groovy. And, of course, we've been asking Ronnie for his product reviews. Now, there's a bit of correspondence that's been going on in the past 2 weeks between Ronnie and Aaron. It's all text-based. Well, Aaron, who's got a sore throat, is going to be reading out a lot of stuff on this. And, of course, we did Ronnie Woo's review 2 weeks ago. So Ronnie actually reviewed a product and by his own admission said he can't review a product badly. He's got to say it's the greatest thing ever, even if it's complete tripe. So we had him on the show, as in like Ronnie's statement about a particular product, and he's contacted Aaron regarding that and the feedback. So, of course, you got to hear about the correspondence that occurred. This is all legitimate, and there's a fair bit of reading out that Aaron has to do, but we're going to kick this one off. And it was you writing to him.
Hey, Ronnie, you are a hit. I think everyone found your product review amazing and liked how positive you were. If you're okay with this, I will send you pictures of all the things that I order and hope you a few words about when they arrive. All the best, Aaron.
So, and of course, the gag, of course, is the fact that Ronnie's saying these products are fantastic when they're actually the complete shit. So there you go. So what do you think Ronnie said to Aaron in response regarding his segment and how it was received? Here we go.
Now, Dags, it isn't a joke. We take Ronnie's words seriously. We've got to support him as the host of the show, and we don't want him to feel bad about his reviews.
Sure.
Hey, Aaron, thank you for your words. I think they are kinder than the people watching. I try and make nice descriptions about the product, and most mock and laugh what I say. Are you sure I am not middle of some joke? Not sure if it's worth being involved if no one takes it seriously. Ronnie.
That is, I reckon the audience is already, they already know what the answer to that question is.
Oh, it's no joke.
Oh, of course not. Yeah, I like it. We're not taking it all seriously. Absolutely. Of course, everything that Ronnie says is like, it's like the angels are talking from the heavens. So there you go. Now, Aaron, in his best wisdom, actually referred to a couple of our viewers who are watching right now when he referred back to Ronnie. So this one, the text is a little smaller. Even Christy saying, she was a bit mean.
I just remember on comments, not just on the show, but on comments that go up on the Sci-Fi Zone. And because Ronnie has watched the show as well, I don't know how much English he understands, but I think he does read the comments and can understand the comments probably better than what we say. So maybe what we can get away with a bit more than the comments that we put up.
Yeah, but the irony is, of course, that everybody here actually loves Ronnie, even he's
Yeah,
become
I
a bit of
know.
a cult figure.
Yeah.
So there you go. Anyway, this is the text. This is actually Aaron responding back to Ronnie after what he just said.
Hey, Ronnie, I think you confuse our live viewers' excitement with them saying bad comments. I know you already have some fans. Colin Parkinson and Joe Penn often say that the segment isn't any good without your comments. I don't think you should let down your fans because of a few wowzers say some funny comment. I haven't had anything else arrive yet, though, so I can't get you to review items that I haven't got. I am still waiting for a small home for hobbits and also the Little Shop of Horror plant replica. All the best, Aaron. That has turned up today. Yeah.
Very, very good. Okay, so we've got wowzers in the audience. Is that what you're trying to tell?
Yeah. So I just say words that I think he'll have to look up, so I help him learn English.
Very good. So a couple we got officially. So anybody out there wants to officially label themselves as wowzers, then that is very, very cool. All right. So what do you reckon Ronnie had to say about all this?
Hi, Aaron. I was sure you would have your order by now. If you wish, I can try and send them again, but you'll need to send money for extra. If you do this, items will be on their super fast top items. I did look through show after it streamed, and I thought Colin was one of the main viewers not believing my review. Not a fan. I do not think I have fans. Maybe fan, but not fans. Not sure if I will write more reviews, Ronnie.
You had a slight stutter there in one of your key moments, right in the important part where you said you will need to send more money for extra postage. So for those, but we got all that through in the end. So the key thing is that Aaron's actually sent postage money 3 times already, $9.95, and as it turned out, at least one of the items has turned up. So this is slightly out of date, but there you go. Very, very cool. Now, Colin, before you start stressing out about the fact that good old Ronnie's having a go at you, a wowzer, as it were, don't worry. Aaron, the shining white knight, came to your aid.
Hey, Ronnie. Don't worry about what Colin says. He is using ironic humor when he comments. I am sure of it. This means when he says bad, it is actually agreeing with you. He is your #1 fan. Also, the Soul Greg King is a fan and thinks that your reviews help consumers understand better the items they will receive, so makes it better for you. When international shoppers can see the products and how you review them, they will have a better understanding as to how your store works and what they will get. So it's a win-win for you, I think, if you think about it. I'm not sending more money for the Hobbit home. By now, I have spent enough to buy a large Hobbit mansion, not a small home. All the best, Aaron.
Very, very cool. Yeah, Jeffro said it. OnlyFans. Yes, well done. How good is that? It's time to launch the PayPal scheme. Well, it can't because he actually got one of the items today. So there you go. And Colin, I like it, Ronnie. All is forgiven. Absolutely fantastic. So in the last word, what do you think Ronnie had to say about all this? Here we go.
Hi, Aaron. If you keep buying product from us, I will keep doing the reviews when it arrives. I think you are right. It will help buyer know what our products are. We will probably not get so many shouty emails with complaints. Still not know if Colin is a fan, but I do trust the soul Greg King. I like this bit. I see him and the vile creature on the show this week. But no reviews. I am sorry if you are sick. Hope you will recover swiftly, faster than our shipping of small home for hobbits. See, I can make jokes about our service, Ronnie.
How about that? He's actually hanging shit on his own business. Shouty emails. Oh, that is awesome. I love it.
I just imagine Ronnie opening the emails and going, oh no, another one all in caps lock. Where is my item? Why is the Maltese Falcon so small?
Yeah, why did I order this product and I got a necklace instead? But yeah, and of course he's always said, hey, at least you got something, stop you freaking complaining. Oh, I love it. I agree. That is so funny. Absolutely fantastic. And yeah, it's faster than a shipping of a small house for hobbits, so you can make a joke about our service. That is absolutely awesome. So he's finally turning around a little bit. And of course, the gag being fans that Ronnie's always said that an item that's photographed on their website that you're buying, like we saw earlier that Aaron was picking up, it's like a McDonald's hamburger. What you see in the picture and what you get in real life are completely different things. So that's his what do you call it? Justification for it all. So I reckon that's grouse. Anyway, right. Ronnie has a sense of humor after all. So, but shouty emails. All I would say to people out there watching this, like, dude, give them the shouty. Go, even for items you haven't even ordered, just go, where is it?
See, I keep quite calm, and I think we've been, 2 or 3 months of conversation with Ronnie now. It's been quite a saga, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah. He's provided a lot of great entertainment. And, of course, now that you got your Audrey too, does that mean he has to do a review of that?
Yeah, I'll send pictures and get him to do a review, but I really want the small home for hobbits.
Yeah, which is the Hobbit Mansion.
That's been the longest one. I'm going to have to do a PayPal claim on that, soon, because it's been 3 or 4 months.
Dude, another $9.95, mate. It'll be on its way in no time.
I'm not sending more money for that home. So.
I love it. That is grouse. So for those who aren't aware, yeah, the home for hobbits, Ronnie just kept saying, in fact, a couple of weeks ago, he caught himself out saying it's being sent. And then later on, he said, if you want to ship faster, let us know. Send us some more money over. Go, dude, you've actually just said you've already sent the damn thing. So absolutely fantastic. Oh, William are on the ball. Where's my life-size Ronnie doll? Oh, yeah, that is absolutely awesome. So very, very, very cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, you want to say something?
No, go ahead.
Very good. Actually, you are right. You're right. It actually took less time to get to the Lonely Mountain. Totally. You go. And Guy said he's not a wowser. Some people are obviously wowzers out there, so make of that what you will. And you're right, Ange, there needs to be a pop of Ronnie. Oh, that'd be absolutely fantastic. It'd just be a question mark on his face because we don't really know what he looks like unless you use the Ferengi head. That would be the way to go.
Maybe the Vile can design a Ronnie pop.
Tell you what, right there you go, Mr. Vile. Put it in there. We'll have it in the show next week. And if Ronnie sees that, he may have to. You send one to Ronnie, and he's got to do a review of a pop of himself. I reckon that's absolutely spectacular. So there you go.
Yeah,
very good stuff. All right, so and as we said, next week we'll talk about the Audrey 2 comparison pictures with the photograph of what was advertised. But in the interim, it's been a couple of weeks. Last week you saw him in the flesh on this show, and of course he was actually in the store in the flesh, as it were. But now he's back again where he belongs, back on this show. And, of course, it is time for the Lord Vile's Vile File. How exciting is this, Mr. Aaron?
I don't know if that's Lord Vile or the Vile creature.
Is it the Vile creature? Isn't that funny? In fact, the Vile would take that as a compliment, I would say. So
I take it as a compliment. We've been called the product of deranged minds. and now the vile creature.
Love it. Absolutely fantastic. Well, anyway, regarding the vile, so we've got the old vile mail bag. Is that right there, Mr. Aaron?
It is, yep, with the vile scarlet letters.
So now that the Vile is getting letters, it's pretty soon they're getting letters sent into the show for good old Ronnie. So I reckon that you and I, once again, are just getting shafted off to the side. So
I never get letters. Do you get letters?
Nah. I mean, I'll be lucky if I missed if I'm not even around for an episode. A pop of Ronnie. See, that's a useless pop of the week. I don't think so. I think people would be putting on orders for those. That'd be a Kickstarter campaign. People saying, oh, I've got to have one of those. And, of course, only people who watch this show would know what the gag is. Okay, imagine in the store of Chad, as it were, there's a Ronnie pop, and somebody says, "I've got to have one of those," as seen on Rip It Off the Card, but nobody knows what it is. I reckon that's absolutely fantastic. So, very, very cool. Chrissy said, "Yep, love the vile creature." I think that's absolutely spectacular. In the interim, though, we're on the Lord Vile's Vile Fall, and of course, you've got a bit of correspondence.
I just point out. I wonder if he said the vile creature because he knows from watching the Creature from the Black Lagoon stuff with the Vile last week.
Not a hope in hell.
No? Okay. Just putting a positive spin on it. You're a vile creature, Lord Vile.
Yeah,
Dear Lord
and he loves
Vile.
it anyway, so yes, very, very cool. Go for it.
Dear Lord Vile, did you ever go on any road trips when you were a young apprentice? Do you have any memories of any vile Aussie landmarks? Maybe you could share some holiday photos from Mark Jameson.
So you're suggesting that the Vile has violated Australian landmarks. So that can be interpreted in many different ways. But as it turns out, he has been around.
Travel all over the country.
How exciting was that? So you can tell that as sick as he is, good old our Aaron has had time on his hands to put that together.
Oh, way too much time on my hands. So, yes, the Vile has gone into his photo album from when he was a wee little Sith apprentice, and he has found some oversized Australian landmarks. I'm sure everyone growing up in Australia has seen the big banana and stuff like this. So, did you want to add something, Dax?
Yeah, I can tell you quite categorically, the Vile has never been a wee Sith apprentice.
He's not been Scottish.
No. Keep going.
So we've got into his photo album, and this is some of the travels in his youth, probably in the back of a sedan car, like burning with no air conditioning. And we're going to look at some of the large items that you can find in Australia if you go on a road trip. Now, I don't know if you did this when you were little Dags. We used to go on drives just to see stuff like this. Now, my son, this would bore the crap out of him if I go, we're going to go and see the giant watermelon or the giant pineapple.
I'm going to just cut you off there. Just what Grant said, the Vile on the tucker box, that is fantastic. You piss the dog off, put the Vile on there.
That would be quite funny if the Vile had actually taken pictures of himself in all these locations. That would be a coffee table book right there, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Anyway,
but,
get on with it.
Here's some. If you like your fruit salad, Australia is chockers full of giant fruit. I don't know who was the first person to come up with the idea that if you made a giant version of fruit that it would become a tourist attraction. Probably the giant pineapple, I think. Probably it would have been good if there was just one. But then as soon as you get other people copying it with other fruits and other vegetables, it kind of dilutes the potency. Now, look at this one. Do you know what that top one is there, Dags?
Well, it says a big potato. I mean, when I say the big potato, are we talking about this thing back here or this dude who's jumping in front of the picture?
I think a little column A and a little column B. It looked to me like the big turd. And that would have probably been a bigger tourist attraction if they'd advertised it at that. But there you go. There is a big potato in Robertson's in New South Wales. But you know what's better than a big potato, Dags? A big avocado. I mean, if there's a fruit that you want to see a large version of, it's the avocado, isn't it? Because it's big and it's green and that's it.
Now, wouldn't you love it? The next photo, this thing is just fallen straight down over the top of the dude. Rusky babes, that potato is now the opposition. Jeez, That's a bit harsh. Oh, dear. William has said the big banana was first 1967. I'll tell you what, yes, well, I'm not surprised by that at all. So very cool. So you get big spuds or big avocados are very, very cool.
But the vial is going the full fruit salad because in Bowen you can see the giant mango. And I mean, if you're going on a road trip, one of the things you want to see after 6 hours drive is a giant mango, isn't it? I mean, and look what they've done with that. A lot of them are just all one color, but that's green at the top and orange at the bottom. So the artist that made that is a true giant fruit Diane. But you think a mango is exotic? Look at the giant apple there. You can go to Toulon and see a giant apple. I mean, why?
Yes, very good. How do you divide 17 apples amongst 16 apples amongst 17 people? Do you remember this one? This is from the Batman movie in 1966.
You make fruit salad.
How do you make fruit salad out of an apple, you knob?
Well,
How do you, for those of you out there,
turn it into apple sauce.
What?
Apple sauce?
About friggin' time you got it right. So exactly right. So remember, what weighs 17 pounds and sits in a tree and is very dangerous? It's a sparrow with a machine gun. But we're not talking about sparrows. We're talking about fruits and big ass lobsters and things.
Well, what kind of vial is always in a hurry? When he's Russian.
Russians.
Now, when you've got a fruit salad happening, you're going to get some seafood, aren't you? And where in the world that Australia would just see a giant prawn and a giant crayfish? And I mean, that's probably a bit more interesting for your Instagram page than the giant avocado, isn't it? But if you...
Yeah, I'm going to say, I'm waiting for Rusky Babes to say, oh, the giant prawn. Yeah, that's the opposition leader as well. If you're a big fan of the movie District 9, you're probably tuck into this because they're all called prawns and that, the aliens. So, but this one at the top, that's actually pretty groovy, I've got to say. You know, I'd rather walk through what is this thing, a crab or a lobster, than a freaking bloody avocado. So,
yes. It's a crayfish and it's in South Australia. And the vial really went to a lot of trouble traveling around Australia, finding all these giant things to violate. I don't know how you violate a prawn, but I don't really want to know either.
There's always a bigger prawn. Yes, exactly right. Oh, yes, here we go.
Now look at this. Not only is that a giant koala, but it's a crap-looking giant koala. Basically, it looks like one of those things where some local artist has done a concrete sculpture over the top of a building to try and make it a tourist attraction. That's on the way to South Australia. It's in Dagwell Bridge, which is right up on the border near Horsham, actually. And I've actually been there. And I've eaten inside that koala. I had some of the worst lamb chops I've ever had. They were obviously frozen. You needed Gordon Ramsay doing one of those restaurant rescues for that place. And then in Kimber, you get the giant galah. And you can see that is actually quite a big bird.
Well, first things first, I thought Kimber was supposed to be a white lion. And when you said, oh, it's a giant galah, I thought, hang on, that kid down there is not that big.
That's not a kid. The galah just shut that out. But yeah, have you been to either of these, Dags, or many of these giant items that we've been looking at?
I can't remember. Maybe the koala. One thing I do like about the koala, at least it's a shop. You can actually physically go inside it. And I do. I was thinking about this earlier when we're doing this stuff, and I agree with Christy on this one. But the animal rights activists, they should be about the violating of these animals. You're right, zombie. It's a zombie koala. Yeah, exactly right. It's not the most glamorous looking image of all time, but at least you can actually go inside and it's actually practical. So, yeah, it's very cool. William, you've been to the giant koala a few times, dude. What you do in the privacy of your own home is entirely up to you.
Is that what he calls Kelvin? Okay. So here's another couple of the giant giant things within Australia. You've got the giant full-neck lizard at the entrance to the Gosford Animal and Reptile Park, and that's one I've been to as well. But who can forget every time you go up to Sydney? You used to go to the giant ram, didn't you, in Goulburn? I don't know. Yep. It was one of those sort of halfway marks or stopping places. And as a kid, that was really cool. You could go into that ram. You could buy all kind of ram and sheep-related products. I mean, if you were going to go and get petrol, are you going to go to a normal petrol station or a petrol station that has a colossal ram in it?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because when you used to drive to Sydney, you go past Goulburn. You used to go through Goulburn, you'd see this, and now they've got the bypass in there. You probably have nowhere near as many visitors. But there, yeah, that looked always very, very cool. And for those who are wondering about the Gosford one with the lizard, getting into that place is really, really cheap. You know why? Because it's no frills.
Well, they have the in Goulburn they have the maximum security prison, and maybe inside the Ram is voluntary confinement. This is true, and it's a whopper, isn't it?
Oh, dear. But it does look, at least if you're going to build big shit, you've got to make it look good. And I've got to admit, a big ass sheep looks way cooler than a freaking big ass avocado.
Yes, the avocado is a particularly low point. Can you imagine if you went on a family trip and your parents go, "You're going somewhere special, you're going somewhere special," and you get there and they go, "Look, it's the giant avocado."
Yep. Yep. Who wants to get their picture taken first with it? Use those gag of the week. So now, normally I say to Aaron, "What are you trying to tell me about all these locations?" But I don't have to do that anymore because Aaron has got way too much time in his hands. Created this.
Traveled all over the country.
That is so sad, dude.
I thought it was genius. And hey, this is the Vile. This isn't me doing all of this. It's just the Vile put extra effort in this week.
Yeah, I like the something. What the hell is this thing over here? A big what?
That's actually see. Sometimes faithful viewers, Dags actually edits out stuff that I put in, and that was one of the locations I was gonna put in, which I thought Dags would nix. So I put it in the title card so he couldn't. That's actually called Cock Rock. It is a real location that you can go and visit in New South Wales.
Oh, okay. They're going to say something else. Yes, very, very good. Okay, I'm not going to say a single. I've already got myself into trouble plenty of times. So, yes, I like this one from Moneybags. Yeah, the giant wang. Speaking of, that's true. Rusky Babes. Yeah, the lizard looks like it's straight out of Journey to the Center of the Earth. That's exactly right. Very, very cool.
No, I actually think the lizard in Gosford is higher production standards than when Alan managed.
Yeah, very, very good. Now, a moment ago, I just showed you we had a message from good old Moneybag Sullivan, which is kind of handy because now it's time to talk about some money because we've got this.
Ooh, baby, do you know that's what...
All right, we're talking about some eBay items there, Mr. Aaron. What's going on, old son?
So it's a fun one this week because we're looking at posters later tonight. I thought I'd just do some recently sold posters on eBay.
Very good stuff. Now, these are all movie posters, and we're kicking it off a bit of the old Halloween 2.
Halloween 2, twice as good as the first one, not. So this is a Halloween 2 Australian poster. It's quite a hard one to get. I had never seen this version of the Halloween 2 poster before, so it could be quite an expensive item.
Yes, original Australian one sheet. So one sheets, for those who don't know, the big movie posters that you get. And typically American ones are the ones that are worth the most. You can always tell, usually Australian ones, because if you can see it right down there, MAPS, Maps, I don't know who that company was, they usually manufactured movie posters for Australia. And they, of course, they did the day bills as well, which, of course, were uniquely Australian. So you may say Halloween 2, yeah, whatever, Australian, yeah, whatever. But you never know. Our international buyers may have gone a bit off the deep end over this. So what does everybody reckon? So Anne said 50 cents, which I'm going to keep for this one. Greg has gone $2. Carol's at $1.90. Hang on, Carol's at $1.99. Natasha, the little dude, is at $350. Violating the old Halloween poster is the Violet, $666. Kelvin's at 50. Chrissy's at 5. Phil has slipped in a nice little bid there at 50. Colin's at 500. Grant, $1. Oh, where's the optimism here, kids? William is at 880. Sorry. Moneybag Sullivan is at $250. What does everybody think? Halloween 2. Was it a good movie? I don't even know, dude.
It's okay. It's not as good as the first one. It's interesting, isn't it? Because if I had said this was Prop Store's poster auction, all of those bids would have an extra 0 on them. But because it's just Australian eBay for a rare poster, everyone's sort of lowballing it a lot more than I thought it would.
Yeah, and it's also worth noting it's folded too. You can see there's fold lines in there, and some posters they're always folded, so they can be sent to the cinemas. And folded ones are generally worth less than rolled ones. You get a rolled poster is like the greatest thing in the entire universe. All right, so how much you reckon I went for, kids? Halloween 2 original Australian one sheet movie poster. Surely it must be complete and utter tripe. It went for a whopping $1,400.
Did Michael get it? The vial,
No,
I think.
Colin, actually, the vial. I think the vial, you got the highest bid, 666. How good's that?
There you go. So the vial
So-
opens the bank with this creature feature.
Yeah, you still got to cough up an extra 1,000 or whatever it is, 800, 900 bucks. How about that? For 1,400 bucks, what do you reckon, dude?
I wasn't surprised. That's a rare poster. It was the first time I'd seen one in monochromatic orange, which must have been an Australian only type thing. So probably quite rare overseas.
Yeah, that's what I think. This probably wouldn't have done much for local people, but international people might have actually gone a bit nutso over it. So there you go. Is that setting the standard for the rest of the eBay option? Oh, look at this. Jaws posters. Check them out.
Look, you get all of them in one go, the one good one and the 3 crap movies. But surely that's a good option to go for, getting all 4 of them, because the crap movies are going to drag down the price of the good one.
So the funny thing is, in Australia, as I said, they produced day bills. Day bills weren't produced in America for whatever reason. They just didn't do it, right? So these are all Australian ones. And of course, a lot of people like day bills because they take up a lot less space and you can put more of them on your wall. Good old Spankin, who's was a guest last week, has a lot of day bills on his walls, actually, which is particularly cool. So if you're a Jaws fan, I mean, admittedly, the first movie is way more valuable than the other 3. But by the same token, if there wasn't a big demand for the other 3, and you can get them all in one go, that might not be a bad thing. So keep that in mind, kiddies, when you're putting your bids in. All right. So Ange has decided to give the 50 cents the flick and got up to 20 grand. Christie's taken his idea and gone for the 50 cents. Collins at 25. Natasha and the little dude is at 3,500. Gavin says 2,600. Carol's at 890. Violating Bruce the Shark is the vial at $2,000. Mr. Phil, he's decided to slip in another one at $1,000, which is absolutely awesome. William has said $5,000. Indeed. Remember, these are official movie posters, and the key thing about movie posters, whether they be day bills or one sheets, is they weren't generally available to the public. You couldn't just run down to your local newsagents to buy these. These were distributed to the cinemas. For that reason, they're worth a lot more because there weren't as many produced, and a lot of them used to get destroyed by the cinemas. Where was I? Moneybag Sullivan has decided to slip in 1,500, and Grant has gone for 150, and Kelvin has gone for 6,000. I've got to say, if you like Jaws, the series, whatever, and you wanted all the movies in one go, this would be pretty groovy. And you'll notice they're all folded. All day bills used to be folded. You can't get rolled ones. But I've never even seen the other 2, Jaws 3 and The Revenge. That's. Have you seen those before?
Yeah, I've seen all of those posters. I would have messaged the guy and go, if I win, can you not send Jaws The Revenge?
Very good. Exactly right. Oh, $1,500 and Moneybags is on the ball. Look at that.
Wow.
He's got it right on the hammer. So there you go. You got Bruce the Sharks, all 4 of them coming your way, Mr. Daniel. What do you reckon?
And I probably thought if you divide that by 4, that's probably quite a good price for 4 original Australian debut posters.
Although I would argue that potentially if you sold the Jaws one by itself, this is the first movie, that may have actually got more, because I think you're right. People may have paid extra for the ones that they didn't want. So, yeah, how about that? Very, very cool. I'm intrigued by the fact that all the purple as well, which I thought was a little bit different. So, yes, very good stuff. All right. Yes, you did. You nailed it indeed. Yay, team to you. All right, next one up. Oh, the old Mad Max, mate.
So Mad Max is one of those classic Australian movies. I don't think it got very much distribution overseas. So if you want a poster for it, you've kind of got to get the Australian one. I'm pretty sure Mad Max 2 was Mad Max 1 in America, The Road Warrior, wasn't it? So
no, they did produce it overseas. What they did for the American market, and I have seen this, is that because it was an Australian movie, they actually redubbed all the dialogue using American actors. And to be fair, they actually did a pretty good job of it. I believe they even flipped scenes with the cars to make the cars left-hand drive where they possibly could, and all the rest of it. But yeah, I mean, but if you ever watch the American dubbed version of this, I mean, it is weird seeing them with American accents, but yeah, the mix was actually really well done. But yes, the value of this would have gone up after The Road Warrior came out, because suddenly people say, oh, shit, this is the second movie. Where's the first one? And so, yes, very good stuff. The
Come
old
to
Mad
Liquor
Max.
wants
And, of
some
course, in
movie
Japan,
posters
it was a
back.
massive, massive hit. All right. Guy has said 70. I don't know if you're referring to this one or the previous one, Guy, so you'll have to either put in another bid or we'll just leave it at that. Angie said 4,700. Gavin is at 10,000. Suddenly the big bids are coming in now, aren't they? Moneybag Sullivan is at 2,000. Carol, 100 grand. Holy guacamole. Oh, geez, if the movie was made in the 1930s, it'd probably be worth that much. Natasha and the little dude is at 1,300. Collins at 150. Oh, sorry, 1,500. Grant is also at 1,500. Violating Max Rachowski, I think his name was, is the Vial at 2,500. Christy, she's given up already. Yep, all right, no worries, that's fine. Rusky Babes is at 5,000. William is at 5,000, and Mr. Phil has slipped in a nice 1,500 there, which is particularly cool. What do you reckon it's all worth, kids? 1979 original Mad Max movie poster. This will be folded. You can see the folds just in there. The folds were a problem because depending on the quality of the paper, they would actually leave a white scratch mark in them. This is like the really matte paper thing. So the paper is really, really, really thin and really, really dodgy. So you almost have to frame them straight away because it's almost like newspaper paper, really, when you sit and think about it, which is pretty unfortunate. But that's just how they produce them. And Jeffro has chucked in 250, and Kelvin has gone for $15,000. All right, very, very cool. Once again, in America, there would be a fair whack of interest in this. And you are right, as they were all folded, which, of course, limits the value a little bit. All right, Mad Max 1975 Australian movie poster. And I agree with you, probably would not have been available in the US. So it would be the Australian one is the only one to go with. And, of course, if you notice, then they're made by Maps, as I mentioned earlier. How much do you reckon it went for, kids? It went for a whopping $1,500.
And I think three people have to tear that up and keep it between them, don't they?
Colin is at 15, Grant's at 15, and I think it's between those two, actually. Everybody else is sort of are close to it, but they're right on the money as that one is. Score! Well. There you go. How good's that? Oh, yeah, sorry, Guy. Yeah, 3,000. So, yeah, you were talking about this one. So, yeah. But how about that 1,500, which you could argue is actually quite cheap?
Yeah. So, Phil did get that one as well. So, that was a three-way tie.
Hang on. Oh, hang on. Was he? We'll get... So Colin was there, Grant was there, and Mr. Phil. Yeah, exactly right. So in fact, because it's folded in thirds, there's a piece up there. It's actually folded in quarters. So someone gets this part here, someone gets that part up there, and someone gets the shitty bit at the bottom. There you go. Well done. How about that? Yep.
There you go.
Share it. So, very, very cool. And the good thing about this is it'll only go up in value as they keep producing more Mad Max movies. So there you go. Well done. Worth way more than, say, the third movie, Beyond Thunderdome. So yeah, very, very cool. Oh, here we go. We'll talk about Batman gags earlier on.
I slipped this one in for you, mate, because this is a particularly cool poster. So this is the 1966 Batman movie Australian debut. It is an incredibly hard poster to find. I would like a copy of this poster myself, actually. And I've probably you never ever see them for sale. This one's framed, which in some cases brings the price down. Other people like to have their poster framed and protected. What do you think?
Absolutely awesome. I'm going to get to that in a second. I love this one about the previous one. Grant, well done. 3 men into one poster leaves. Absolutely love it. Yes, you do tend, if you're going to frame them, you try not to glue them to the backboard because then they become, you can't remember, and they become worthless. Jeffro, I could tell you a story well. People put their bids in. It was actually for a one-sheet version of this from the 1960s. I went to a professional poster auction. I was with Jeffro. It was like item number 150 something. Waited for like 3 hours for it to come up. I only had $50 on me. That was it, right? Had my card. It was the first time I registered for a professional auction. I thought, that's all I got. And I said, oh no, here we go. It's a Batman Australian one sheet from 1966, starting the bid at 50. And before I could even get my card in the air, a million cards went up, and it went up to 400 and something bucks, $500. I didn't even get a chance to put my card in the air. And it's like, you wouldn't believe it. And I was standing at the back, and the guy who's sitting right in front of me, he's the one who got it. Oh, mate, I wanted to whack him in the back of the head. So all that time waiting for nothing. I don't know if Jeff remembers that story, but it's an absolute classic. All right. But, yes, this is particularly cool. My preference, though, is for one sheets, but definitely day bills if you can't get those. All right. Angie's at 9,500 for this. Natasha and the Little Dudes are 4,000. This actually would be extremely rare. 1,500 for Carol, 5,000 for Colin. Violating the Cape Crusaders is the Vial at 35.66. Rusky Babes is at $5,000. Grant has gone for 2,000. Kelvin's at 450. Phil has gone for 500. Williams at 1,200. Moneybag Sullivan is at 2,500. So there you go. Yeah, sorry, Guy, your bids are coming in a bit late. So don't stress, dude. Just chuck them in, and we'll go for it. So very, very cool. Rare Australian Batman, the movie debut. Great condition, and there was no 24 bids. Oi, what do you reckon of that, kids? Reckon there would have been a fair bit going on there. So there you go. Just buy it. Hang it on the wall straight away. What can I say? And Guy has gone for 800. See, we got that one, no problem at all. Okay, kids, how much you reckon it went for? The Australian rare, the word rare always generates a sale. There was no reserve. It went for a whopping $676. Oh, that's just not right, dude. What's the deal?
I don't know. I actually think that was a bargain. I would have probably considered buying it for that because it is a rare poster. I may because it was framed, but I don't mind that. I mean, as long as it's original. But yeah, I thought that was a bit cheap. That was the poster of the evening, I thought.
The only reason it would lose value is if the poster is glued to the backboard and is not removable, right? That does, because the thing about posters is they can't be touching anything. They have to be able to be taken out of whatever they're put into and back in their original form. That's the only thing I could think of, which is funny because when you glue them to the backboard, they look better. So, I think Phil has got that at 500. He's still got to cough up an extra 67 bucks. But that is an absolute bargain, I've got to say. Considering it's 50-something years old now. Crazy.
The other thing with that poster, because it's a yellow poster, the few I have seen have actually been a bit washed out and maybe damaged by the light. But that one looks in beautiful condition.
Yeah, I agree. It's surprising actually. 24 bids, and that's as far as it got. So I reckon that's I don't know what the deal is, but anyway, I think if you bought this and tried to resell it in the right market, you would actually get your money back and then some. So very, very cool. All right, now this last one is going to interest me because I've got two of these. So there you go, not one, but duet. And there's two versions of this, by the way. Before we get to Aaron. There's the bit at the bottom where it says coming May 25th, 1983 to your Galaxy. There is a version of this poster where that text is not there. So I thought I'd just chuck that in. Very good. There we go. And Natasha has said, yes, as a picture framer, do not glue the movie posters. Laminating is the ultimate killer of value. Absolutely. I mean, you can hang them on a wall without damaging them, but they're already damaged. So, yes, never, ever do that. So, very, very cool. All right, Revenge of the Jedi. What did you want to say about this, dude?
Well, we're ending up with one of the big hitters. This is the Revenge of the Jedi. Anything with Revenge of the Jedi instead of Return of the Jedi is legendary because, everyone knows the story of the movie name change. So some of this merchandise to get out, I guess mainly I've seen it on posters and programs. This is one of the posters, looks in really good condition. Dags has two of them.
Two. Count them, kids, two. And both of mine are rolled, by the way. I thought I'd just mention that as well. So, yes, it's very, very groovy. And they did do reissues of this with Return of the Jedi, but I mean, of course, that's not the one you want to get. So what do you reckon, eh? Revenge of the Jedi, just the name alone just makes me all tingly inside. Very, very cool. Angie's gone for 400. Moneybag Sullivan's at 5,000. Gavin's at 26,000. The more you guys bid up, the more happier I feel, because I think if that's the case, dude, mate, holiday time for me. Grant has said priceless. That's great to see, but unfortunately it's not. You can actually buy this for a price, $2,500 for Carol. Colin has said 5,000. Kelvin's at 3,500. Natasha and the little dude is at 5,800. Christy, finally putting a bid in, Christy. Well done. 780. Rusky Babes is at 10,000. Williams at 4,500. And Phil is at 1,000. Well done. And I nearly bought one off, maybe $17. 17. Yeah, right. 17,000. Exactly right. So, yes, mine, I kept one. The other one was up for sale for a while, and I've still got it, actually, which is kind of funny. So, but yes, when you see a Revenge of the Jedi poster, you can't help but have a bit of a drool, which I've got to say. Grant has said 22,000 Republic credits. It's a very good stuff. And, of course, the value of these is just going to go up and up and up because they were recalled and destroyed when they had the name change the film, and of course they were never officially released. And being rolled, of course, it's very, very groovy. All right, so what do you reckon I went for? Revenge of the Jedi. And I found out too, I don't know if you picked up on this, local pickup from Melbourne. So who owned this? It's someone local. So
Probably
was it
got-
you, dude?
Nah, probably got Shane's name written on the back again.
No, exactly right. And for those who don't know what we're talking about, we actually did find a person who sold a laminated poster on eBay a little while ago, and it actually had the name of one of our friends written on the back. And as it turned out, while I'm waiting for a couple of extra bids to come in, it turned out it was lost at this guy's house behind his wardrobe. It was thick, hardcore laminating, so it just wouldn't bend. And he was lost behind his wardrobe. He moved out, and years later, someone else moved in, cleaned the house out, and found the poster behind there, put it on eBay. So how's that for a story? This is one you don't come across very often. And it was actually Aaron who found it. Is that right, dude?
It was.
he like
I was going
on
through
eBay?
for this very segment and found it and said, hey, I found Shane's missing poster.
Very, very cool. Colin's asked if you pay for extra daggy drool on your poster, as you well should do. Very, very cool. All right, so how much do you reckon it went for Kids Revenge of the Jedi 1983? It went for a whopping 4 bids. $1,458, which I think is kind of a bit on the cheap side, but there you go.
Well, I cashed out on mine when they hit $500, and I thought I was doing really well, but that was like 20 years ago.
Yes, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Phil is $500 short, and I think because it's 1458, I think Mr. Phil, you may have it again, mate. How about that? But I think that's a bit of a cheap one in my personal view. But there you go, Mr. Phil. I think it's yours, old son.
I think maybe if he'd taken some nicer photos, because the glare on it and the way the poster's positioned, and then described it a bit better, and I reckon it should have gone for double that.
At least $2,000. That's what I would have thought. So, so even though I've got 2 of them, I go, well, that just kind of sucks. I was waiting for some of these $26,000 ones to sort of come up. That would have done me very, very nicely. There you go, which means I'll probably have to hang on to mine for a little bit longer. All right. Now, even though we're running a little bit late, guys, it's Aaron's return. We're going to have to make a bit of a thing of it. We do actually have to chuck in a couple of commercials. It's commercial time. There's 2 things that we need to announce. Both of these are events. One's happening next week. The other one's happening in a couple of months. But to kick things off, for those who may or may not know, or may not even give a rat's ass, back in 2012, there was a convention that myself and a few other dudes, including Rusky Babes, who's watching tonight, ran, called Con 9 from Outer Space, where we celebrated the golden age of science fiction movies, TV shows, and radio. Well, believe it or not, next week is its 10th anniversary. So we're just putting the word out for those who want to come back to the venue, the Amora Hotel in Richmond, just to hang out, in the afternoon at 1 o'clock. It's no formal thing. There's nothing organised. It's just a bit of a catch up and a bit of a gag around and share some memories of the convention that was 10 years ago. And it was from Con 9 that Con 70 happened. Con 80 happened, and believe it or not, Sci-Fi Zone. So there was all that massive flow-on effect. So you could argue that the reason we're here today is because of Con 9 from Outer Space. So it was a 2-day convention we ran back then, and a lot of people loved it. And believe it or not, next year it's 10 years old. So I know you didn't get to go, Mr. Aaron, but you're sort of more than welcome to come along if you can drag yourself away from your store for a day or an afternoon.
So does the hotel know you're coming?
Not yet, so I have to contact them. We're just going to hang out in the foyer. So they have a large foyer there. And but I will contact them to make sure that there's no other events occurring at the time that will stop us from entering. But there's a large foyer in the hotel, so we're not going to go to any restaurants or anything. We're just going to catch up and very, very good. Oh, look, this Rusky Babes wins Rip It Off the Con starting. I reckon that's a bit of a good one, eh? So anyway, that's next, not this Saturday, but the Saturday after, so at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So if you want to check it out, be more than welcome to. But if that is not your cup of tea and you wanted something a little bit more formal, I decided to put this in because it is a bit of a special event. Good old Star Walking is running. It's been delayed a couple of times because of the COVID pandemic and all the rest of it. Raiders of the Lost Ark, Raiders of the Lost Empire gala dinner, and this is happening on the 10th of September this year. It's been postponed a couple of times. Sure, the anniversaries have passed, 2 years ago and last year and whatever, but they're finally getting around to doing it, and it's going to be a bit of a big night. Banquets like this are few and far between now. The last one, believe it or not, was run by Star Walking. It was 5 years ago, so they're a bit of a unique commodity. And of course, Spankin, who we sometimes see in the show, has made a lot of fantastic props and backdrops and prizes and all that sort of thing for this particular event, and it should be checked out. So if you're interested in attending, go to starwalking.net where you can check out your tickets. And of course, there's all sorts of stuff going on. There's the big fancy food and the dancing and all the rest of it, and costume parades and all that other stuff.
Isn't it usually Spankin that pops out at these events?
You mean Spankin?
that
It's the
spanking.
other spanking.
The other
Yes,
spanking.
exactly right. Very, very cool. So you need to, for those who are interested, it is a bit of a gala thing. Come dressed up, and as I said, they're a rarity. Funnily enough, the last one that dealt with Raiders and Empire was like freaking 20 years ago. So you need to check that out. Regarding, as I said, starwalking.net, be sure to have a look. Regarding the previous thing, do you wear Con 9 badge? Well, you can if you want to. I'm not going to do anything about it, but you may just turn up and have a good old time. So there you go. What do you reckon there, Mr. Aaron?
I think both events are worthy of attendance.
Totally agree with you. So very good stuff. So what do you reckon, Mr. Aaron? It's all good. Oh, now we've actually got a bit of a thing tonight, haven't we, Mr. Aaron? So what are we gasbagging about?
So we're going to talk about movie posters from the 80s. And it's not so much as a presentation, but just we're going to go through movie posters and discuss some of our favorites, some of the movies. Are they appropriate for the movie? Are they good posters? Are they bad posters? And that's because I want to have a conversation with Dags because my voice is running out. And if I do a whole presentation tonight, I think I'll die in about 10 minutes. So we're just, if you have a particular favorite that comes up, feel free to add some facts in or say why you like it or why you don't like it. And if we've missed any that are your favorites, feel free to call us up on them as well.
Two things. I like the fact you said your voice is going. You had to read out all that text from Ronnie and yourself's correspondence earlier. I reckon that's kind of funny. And what I should do now is just ask you a whole lot of questions. So what posters do you like, Aaron? Oh, can you tell me about this? Can you make you work for it?
Yeah, I'll just take myself off the stream and let you go for it.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, the cool thing is we are talking about movie posters from the 80s, and which, of course, generated a lot, especially in the pop culture side. There was stacks of really good movies that came out at that time. And in fact, the first three that we're going to show you, all three of them were outstanding, both as posters, but also as the films. And I've got to admit, before you say anything, these three are excellent. I always like going to start from this side first. When I first saw The Fly, the idea that you got the human hand on that side and the fly leg on that side, I thought that is freaking grouse. That is an outstandingly good idea. With the Thing, you don't get to see who the person is inside the outfit, which I think is absolutely ingenious. And of course, the idea that in the glasses, which of course is how you see the aliens and they live, yeah, absolutely ingenious. You look at this picture. In fact, that's what I think is interesting. Just the pictures alone tell you everything you need to know about the movie, right? Something to do with aliens and glasses. You don't know who the guys are. And of course, the fly, of course, is the fly. Ingenious. Absolutely love them.
So, yeah, again, three of my favorite posters off the bat, and you've covered a lot of the stuff that's in them. The other thing I'll bring up just about collecting posters, people don't realize it. In the 80s, it was very hard to get movie posters. It wasn't like now where you can go to Kmart and they have a big poster board with every single movie that's in the cinema in. You could not get them. If it was a super, super popular movie like a Star Wars, you could. But most of the time, if you wanted a movie poster for one of these types, there was maybe 2 or 3 shops in Melbourne. You'd have Moviola that would sell the originals and Minotaur books and Space Age books that would import reproduction ones if they could get them. And even back in the 80s, an original movie poster, it was about $100 to get one from Moviola, and then it was about $30 from Minotaur. So they were expensive. I mean, now we have them for $10 or $12 in the shop, and they're big, beautiful, full-size reproductions. Back then, collecting movie posters was a bit more difficult than it is now.
Yeah, what was interesting is that the reproduction posters were smaller than the official one-sheeters, so you couldn't pass them off as the real thing. Whereas now a lot of the reproductions are the same size, and if you don't, until you read the fine print, you might not even know it's a copy. But you are right. I mean, American movie posters just generally were $25, which back in the 80s was a bit of an expense, and of course the value just went up. And as you said, because of the cinemas, they're only available for the cinemas, as we discussed with the eBay section. They were hard to get, and Moviola for here was just like, oh my god, the dream place. And in fact, I had to black ban myself from going there because I was spending so much money. A few things that have come up. Chrissy said, can we discuss the sexism in the poster? You can if you want to. It's into, we're not going to make a discussion out of it, but if you want to bring some comments in, there's going to be some where you probably could look at them and go, oh, it's kind of a bit disconcerting. And when in one of the promos we had for today was the Porky's one. And of course, that's about as sexist as you can get. So, but by all means, if you got some comments you want to make, yeah, we're happy to listen to them. And Guy has said about the Lay Live poster there. It is awesome. It's absolutely fantastic. And it's a great movie too, which is particularly cool. But as we said, all three of them tell you what you need to know just to get you into the movie, right? That's it. You don't need any other words. It's just the way to go. And for that reason, absolutely ingenious, I've got to say. So, yeah, very, very cool. Speaking of ingenious, of course, you got your brand of Star Wars posters, mate.
Yep. So if you want to take an in-depth look at the Star Wars posters from this era, we have done shows which really highlight them. But I didn't want to leave them out when we look at the posters from the 80s. So Empire and Jedi both came out in the 80s, and they had a whole heap of different posters. I'm just highlighting some of my favorite ones. The Empire debut on the side there is one of my favorite posters ever. I love the Australian, and it's the Japanese one as well, with sort of the green Vader in the background. And usually in the middle, you have the English versions, which are very different from what we got in Australia. And again, you've got the lightsaber one on the end for Jedi, which I remember seeing here as a kid and going, oh, wow, I can't wait to see this movie. And look, there's the Death Star in the background.
Yeah, so for those who want the two middle ones, the Empire, they're actually British quads. They're only available in England. So the British had a bit of a thing for quads. So you're thinking, oh, I never saw that in Australian cinemas or American cinemas. That's the reason why. I agree with you. The Empire one is absolutely spectacular. And a lot of people don't realize that's the Millennium Falcon on its side, just going through there, which is particularly cool. And it's good to see Lando getting a bit of prominence in the picture too. And some of the other posters you'll sort of just chucked in as an afterthought. For those who didn't know, the hands holding the lightsaber were George Lucas's hands. And you are right, even though you don't realize that that's Endor, and there's a tiny Death Star right there. It took me years to realize that. I didn't even notice that at the first time. But and of course, it should be a blue lightsaber, but of course, a green one, because Luke uses green in the movie, but it's a blue one because at that point, when the posters came out, they hadn't really decided what color they were going to go with until afterwards. And in post-production, they had to change it to green. But in fact, the vial, speaking of the vial, for one of the banquets a number of years ago in 2013, made a necktie based on this artwork, and he painted it himself. And I got it because of the lightsaber going right up the necktie, and it was spectacular. And I've got to say, it was absolutely fantastic. So yeah, with Star Wars, there's some fantastic stuff out there, which is particularly groovy. So there you go.
So if we look at Star Wars, the other thing we've got to look at, of course, is
Star Trek.
Star Trek. And the thing that really interests me about Star Trek is I liked Star Trek growing up, and I loved Star Wars. And I remember seeing the posters for Star Trek at the cinema, and for some reason they never did anything for me. I don't know if it was because I wasn't attached to the characters. It always seemed that the Star Wars posters were a lot more exciting than the Star Trek ones. And I don't know if that has anything to do with why Star Trek didn't gross as much, because the art wasn't as good. I don't know. Did you think the Star Trek posters were good, Dags?
I don't know, because I was always more of a Star Wars fan. I don't know. I can't answer that question, dude. This Wrath of Khan one is the English one. I know that much because the American one looked different. I did like the Searcher Spock thing with the colors coming out of his face, and there was another version of that as well. And of course, Brian Pico, I think his name was, did the motion picture. I think was responsible for that. So I don't know. I can't answer that one. I'm not entirely sure. With that in mind, a couple of things are going to come up. Rusky Babes has got a good one here, actually. Yeah, back in the day, if you wanted posters, you had to rip them out of magazines. And there were poster magazines that were made for movies and TV shows. Well, not many TV shows, but for movies. And they're the ones that you end up sort of blue tacking or sticky taping to your bedroom wall. Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with that. Funnily enough, those magazines still in mint condition probably command a bit of money there too, which is particularly cool.
It is funny. If I can just add something, that
you go for
a source for posters used to actually be the video library, because they would get posters, and if you were really nice, they'd give them to you when they finished with them. And at the time, there was a real snobbery. A poster from the cinema worth bucks. Poster from the video library, disposable. You can stick it to the wall. Now it's turned around the other way, where people actually like the video library posters because they've got unique stuff written on them and things like that. But I think everyone's probably had the story, if they grew up in the 80s, where they went and asked for a poster week after week after week. And they said, yeah, we'll save it. Yeah, we'll save it. Yeah, we'll save it. Oh, we gave it to someone else.
It's interesting you should mention that because with the video stores, they would get the film movie poster or a reproduction of it and just stick in CBS video at the bottom, right? And you go, well, that's just, you're right. Once you saw that, chuck it out the window. But there were a couple of occasions where they actually designed brand new ones for videos. And Return of the Jedi had two, and I've got them both, if I recall, that was specifically designed for the video release. So they actually changed the design. Right, it was unique. It wasn't just the movie poster with the CBS logo thing on the bottom. And I thought, oh, that's different. And for that reason, they then can actually have some value associated with them, especially if they were locally produced. A couple of things I wanted to bring up. This is going back to the Star Trek ones. So Phil has said about the Star Trek 5. He hasn't seen out the pictures, and of course, Star Trek 5. For most people, they couldn't give a rat's ass about it. But of course, if you're a fan of watching Strange New Worlds, suddenly Star Trek 5 is a bit more relevance, which I think is kind of groovy. But yes, which is kind of cool. But yes, I don't think Star Trek movies as a whole was sold on their posters. I don't know what the reason is for that.
I do remember one of the thinking as a teenager, one of the worst posters I ever saw for a sci-fi movie. I think it was Star Trek 5, which was just a cinema seat with a seatbelt on. And I thought, who wants to go and see that movie?
As it is, that was the first teaser poster for Star Trek 5, and I got that because I was into collecting Star Trek movie posters back then. And you are right, it's an airline seat. Strap yourself in and all. It's like, oh, complete stupidity. And of course, one of the things now, I don't know if this was common or when this started occurring, maybe in the 70s, was the idea of teaser posters where they would just show one image and that would be it. And so you'd have the teaser, you'd have the release one later on. And in a lot of cases, the teaser ones were the ones that looked really, really spectacular because they just gave an inkling, as to what the movie was about. And of course, Star Wars is a million freaking teaser posters. And now it's a bit of a common thing. But there were some that got released and you go, oh, that is just groovy, just one image. I mean, if you remember the movie Hook, it was just the hook, right?
Yeah.
If you remember Rocketeer, it was all very Art Deco. We were discussing Rocketeer earlier and things like that. And the Batman ones, which was just the cowl and just subtle things like that. Oh, you looked at some of those, you go, oh, dude, that is just freaking awesome. And because they were designed to just tease you, which was what it was all about. Hang on. Yes, the seatbelt was to force you to watch it. Yeah, I agree with Aaron. It was a kind of a stupid. It was clearly it sounded like a good idea at the time, but it was kind of stupid. And I think they retracted it pretty quickly to what do you call it? Get to the normal ones. Star Trek movie poster was never as good as the Star Wars. Exactly. Yeah, that's what we're saying, and I tend to agree with you. I'm not entirely sure what the reasoning is for that, but it is. There was also Starlog, Poster Mag, actual magazines where you could actually rip apart. And of course, the problem was you always had one picture on the back of the other picture. And you go, oh, which one do I put on the wall? Who's going to get the sacrifice? Yes. Yes, Trek posters have to be different. Trek isn't selling a war explainer. It's harder to get the juices flowing. Yeah, true. But by the same token, I think it's to do with the artwork. If you look at all the pictures side by side, you go, which one appeals to you more? For whatever reason, the Star Wars ones always seem to appeal to a lot more of lot more to the audience. Very, very cool. All right, we'll move along. So here we go. And there's a couple of, I'm not a big fan of the Scanners one, but Escape from New York and Tron. Oh, yes.
It is interesting with these ones. I like Escape from New York, 1989, which is been and gone.
97.
And the huge production value of having a giant Statue of Liberty head in New York with people running around it really would get you into the movie, and you could be a tad disappointed when you saw the production. It is a good enough movie that you wouldn't be disappointed for too long.
But the thing is, with Escape from New York, the fact of seeing the Statue of Liberty's head in the middle of the street and be like, oh, what's the deal with that?
Yeah.
Right. And of course, it says 1997 because the movie was made in the 80s. You go, oh, that is just, and the name, of course, that is just magic written all over it. It's just like, oh, yeah, I've got to find out what the deal is with that. And for those who've watched the movie Cloverfield, where the Statue of Liberty's head ends up in the street and everybody comes out with their phones to start filming it, that was actually inspired by this poster. So, sorry, dude, cut you off.
No problem at all. I was having a good cough there. Scanners is one of those ones that I never remember seeing at the cinema. I do remember seeing at the video library the movie and renting it on the strength of the poster, seeing it at the video library, and not realizing that that's Michael Ironside in the poster. It doesn't really look like him, but when you see it, it is. And Tron is another one of those. I saw Tron in the cinema when it originally came out. As a kid, I kind of remember it being a bit boring, actually. But the poster is an awesome poster. I think it's one of those iconic images where people often remember Tron as being better than it actually is, because the images, when you isolate them for the movie, are fantastic. When you put them all in the movie, it drags a bit and isn't as great in my opinion. So I think all of those are fantastic posters for selling the movies.
So Chrissy made a point about her local cinema had a bin with rolled movie posters. That would happen. Some of the, if you had a good manager at a cinema, instead of throwing their posters out, which is what they were supposed to do, they would just chuck them out for either nothing for a handful of dollars. And some people were able to get them that way, even though they might have been damaged or had pieces missing or pinholes or whatever. But yeah, I've known of a few people to get their posters from the cinemas, which is particularly groovy. Sorry, Guy, Lord of the Rings, it's too late, dude. We're only just dealing with the 80s here. So Lord of the Rings didn't make an appearance until about 30 years afterwards or 20 years afterwards. Moneybag Sullivan's about the Tron poster. Absolutely love it too. What I find interesting with all three of them is they've all got all this text in here. So it's not just the picture. So the 4 billion people. When's the last time we had 4 billion people on this planet? Here, you got the 1997, all this stuff there, the Tron poster, all this stuff over there. So there's all this text they've got to chuck in to sort of like help sell what the movie's about. And you can argue, is that necessary or not? If you took all this out here, the scanners thing, would people have said, no, I'm not going to watch the movie or the 1997? Do you need the text? And I think that's probably a bit of a questionable one, because in the end, they've got all this text down here, and it's a bit of an overkill. So, and the one thing I never liked in movie posters is when they said, "Oh, a raving review from like some magazine." It was like, "Oh, an instant hit from Film Review" or whatever. I couldn't stand it when they did that. So,
well, I know Sony got caught out because they would basically make up those things themselves and put them on the posters. They weren't from real reviews, but I think everyone kind of realized that.
It's a good point there, Rusky Babes, about the fact that there were movies that had the Twin Towers in them in New York, and of course in Escape from New York, the World Trade Center features prominently because that's how they got into New York, Manhattan Island. But of course, that was made in the 80s, and of course the towers were standing up by that point, so you can't digitally remove them or take them out because that's how they get their glide. That's how they get into the city and how they get out again with the glider on the roof. So yeah, they kind of got to leave them in. But yeah, there was a period of time there where it was a bit iffy for some groups of people. So, but the film's set in 1997, and they were still standing at that point, so they kind of got away with it. So very, very cool. The Basky movie for Lord of the Rings, that was in the 70s, dude. We're talking about the 80s here. So get with the 80s, kids. Come on, get with the program. So
we will at some point do an animated movie posters show, though, so it'll probably come up then, because that is an awesome poster.
Yeah, no, totally agree with you. And it was the first cinematic. Oh no, might have been the second. No, the first cinematic variation of A Lord of the Rings, which is particularly cool. So I'm just reading all the comments here, and I agree with you, Mr. Vile. Yes, Escape from New York was a great movie, a Carpenter classic. And it was mentioned. I didn't put on the screen, but Rusky Babe said, and I agree with him, was certainly better than the sequel, Escape from L.A. Speaking of posters, this is I find it interesting. Poltergeist one, right? Now this is what you call a teaser poster. Look at that, all black. And it just is there here. How grouse is that? You can't get more simplistic than that. Isn't that just ingenious?
Well, I put these three together because they have very sort of simplistic images that really draw you in and let you know what the movie is going to be. That Poltergeist, I always thought, out of the horror action figures, they should do that as a action figure set because it's such a iconic image that everybody knows as soon as you see it. E.T. is interesting because you've got that classic image from, I think it's the Sistine Chapel roof of God touching man, but they've changed it to alien touching boy, which is really a smart idea. And then Gremlins, of course, everyone knows what Gremlins look like now, but I remember seeing that poster and going, oh, what the hell is in the box?
Just going to backtrack a bit. Rusky Babe's talking about the Lord of the Rings Ralph Bakshi version, 1980. Oh, was it? Can someone check for me? I'm sure it was in the 70s because he did Wizards first. That was a 70s movie. I'm not entirely sure now. So if someone can check that out, that'd be fantastic. Ralph Bakshi, Lord of the Rings. Yeah, with the ET one, I mean, when you sit and look at it and you're right, it's the whole thing, God touching man. You do wonder if some religious people sort of got a bit narky about it, going, hang on, what's the deal with that? It's supposed to be God touching a person, not aliens touching people. So yeah, I do wonder about that. What do you think?
As long as it's not one of God's representatives touching a little boy, I think everyone's fine with it, Dags. But
yeah, I mean, I didn't twig until like when I was looking at this earlier and go, oh yeah, of course. So
it's one of those.
Cool. Sorry.
I actually think that you'll always find someone somewhere that'll be offended by something, but I think the majority of people would think it was fine.
Cool. Yeah, I totally agree with it. Natasha's finally come with a fun factoid of her own. I love it. On the belt buckle on the Gremlins poster, the Amblin logo, which is way down here in the darkness. So How grouse is that? In fact, this picture is really, really cool because you just got the paws coming out, right? Once again, you've got text up here. You always got your text. And you go, that is like a real like dangling a carrot. What's in the box? And I reckon that's actually very, very cool. So, yeah. And of course, the idea is, you remember, this is long before the internet existed, right? Now, you might have seen trailers in the movies, but it's like the poster had to sell the movie. It had to make you say, why is the human down here touching this dude up there? What is the deal with that? And of course, that was back in 82. This is how far back we're going with this. So, yeah, very, very cool.
I think before the age of the internet, posters had to do a lot more work on selling the movie than they do now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the posters are almost an afterthought now. Absolutely. I mean, you see them online and you go, yeah, whatever. I like this one. Pain is in the box. That's straight from June, for those who are wondering. What's in the box? Pain. Very, very, very cool. We had the Star Trek 6 poster. That was 1991. Yeah, bad. Yeah, blame Aaron for that one. Thank you, Mr. Phil, for figuring that one out. There are a couple here which are a bit arse about, and he's got the wrong decade, but let's not stress about that, eh?
I'm sick. Give me a break.
Yeah, that's his excuse. I'm sick. And he's going to go. Watch, he's going to start coughing his guts up. You know, if he starts coughing, the custard is going to come back. Mandalorian Grogu custard. Here you go. Put a bit of a trickle running down the side. No. I'm taking you out there. Swallow it. Oh, I can see him in the green room. Swallow it. Be done with it. Put it away. All right. Very good.
It's gone warm.
Oh, God, disgusting. Guy has said, is there a Willow poster? No, there isn't, but there should be, because the Willow posters were fantastic, I've got to say. So all the red and everything, fantastic.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Now, these ones, now we're talking about things with text all over them, right? I mean, when you get the Terminator, who's going to sit and read all that? You know, it's like, was that totally necessary? But obviously it works. So, as opposed to the RoboCop one, which is just 3 statements. There you go.
It's interesting, isn't it? I kind of look at the Terminator, and it was cool at the time, but it's a bit of a funny poster now. Schwarzenegger looking so butch in the leather with the gun and all of that. It is a classic poster from the time. The RoboCop is classic. He-Man is another example of a poster selling a movie that is way less exciting than the actual poster would suggest it would be.
I used to like the RoboCop one. I go, it's a part dude, part nerd, all gags. I love that. But yeah, the RoboCop one, I remember when I first saw it, I go, oh, that looks grouse. I mean, because the outfit he's getting out of the car is very, very cool. With the Terminator, I don't think you needed all the text, but they've just chucked that in anyway. And of course, Masters of the Universe. I mean, clearly He-Man fans who love the cartoon looked at Skeletor and said, nah, that's complete tripe. I'm not going to go and see it. Whereas people like myself who didn't see the cartoon said, that looks awesome. I am going to go and see it. So, yeah, I think the Masters of the Universe is a bit of hit and miss. It was always going to be a bit, no matter what they did as far as the poster was concerned, it was going to be a bit tricky trying selling it to the purists. Yeah. But there you go.
Yeah. So I think it is one of those things from what you said. Movies from that era, you could sell the whole movie on the concept of RoboCop looks cool, where now you couldn't do a movie like that. The movie would have to have more substance, wouldn't it?
Yeah, totally agree with you. All 3 look stereotypical of the 80s. Yes, they were. I mean, the guy on the beefcake look, the dudes looking like powerful and strong and all the rest of it. I mean, if you weren't into Dolph Lundgren, you probably would have thought, nah, he's not cutting the mustard as He-Man, but he looked the part, and there wasn't many actors at the time who could fit the bill looking like He-Man. So it was a bit of a hit and miss, even though in the movie and in the end credits, he had a dialogue coach and an acting coach and a coach for this and a coach for that. So, yes, Superman 4 lost a lot of its budget to Masters of the Universe. Yeah, well, we know what happened to Superman 4. It was complete and utter tripe. Even its poster sucked big time. But of these 3, one of them was a massive success. The other one was a good success, and the other one tanked big time. And by the 3 of them, you wouldn't have thought that the Terminator was going to be the winner of the group. But Schwarzenegger was a big cat in the time, and he's very, very popular. And off he went, and people like seeing robots kicking the shit out of people. So
Schwarzenegger didn't want to do it because he didn't want to be typecast as a bad guy. And you know how lucky he was that he was convinced to do that movie, because it really made his career, and he could do anything he wanted after that.
Yeah, pretty much. And look, it just went from strength to strength. Regarding Masters of the Universe, Frank Langella was great as Skeletor. I loved him. I thought he was fantastic. But, of course, he looked nothing like the cartoon version or the toy version. So that straight away, as I said, turned off all the purists. big time. Now, this is interesting because they got a trilogy of movies and all the posters all sort of fit side by side. And of course, they make a nice little group. And of course, each movie added additional characters. And I got it was the old Back to the Future ones. And I reckon this is a great series. If you had all three of these as one sheets or whatever, putting side by side, it would probably be really, really groovy.
Well, I think the genius of this is that they got Struzman back to do each one of them, and they used the same pose but updated in each one. And in some cases that might be lazy, but in this it's genius because it's about time travel. So you see the same person in the same pose in different eras through time. So I think this is a particularly smart set of posters. The interesting fact about this is if you look at the DeLorean, particularly in the front movie, none of the dimensions make sense. You can see the side of the car and the door, and it's and they did that because it was a secret that the time machine was a DeLorean. And if you watch the original trailer, you don't really get that idea until the movie. So that's why they did it like that.
One of the things that we were saying earlier is about the extra additional text they keep putting on the posters, right? And you go, is it necessary? Like you got here, all this stuff just there, right? And sometimes you look at it and go, oh, why have you put it there? I mean, it works. It's small. It's out of the way. But of course, sometimes they come up with quotes and lines, and you go, oh, that is absolutely ingenious. They've saved the best trip for last. But this time, have they gone too far? Get a boom tish. They've gone too far traveling. I mean, some of that stuff is really, really clever. And you go, you know what? Well done, kids. Yes, you've done exceptional on that one. So there you go. Yes, yeah. This sucker's nuclear. Yes, exactly right.
The other genius thing is everybody loved the original Back to the Future so much. You can tell from the movie posters you're going to get more of the same. So if you enjoyed the first one, you're definitely going to come back and see the second one when you see those movie posters, aren't you?
Yeah, and I like this. What Christy said, there's 1, 2, 3 people in the pic. So if you want to know, without just looking at the image, this is the first movie, second movie, third movie. So yeah, absolutely, really, really clever. Now there's a couple you chucked in, which I thought was kind of interesting, and I think these must be British quads as well.
They are.
Capricorn 1 and Brazil.
So I put these in because I like both of these movies, but both of them really bombed at the box office. And from both of them, I don't think you can get a really good idea about what the movie is about from the movie poster. And I don't know if a better poster would have made successful movies out of them. But it is interesting that when you do get a better poster, they're often associated with great movies. I don't remember a lot of great movies where you go, that is a fantastic poster. Pity the movie's so crap. Usually when you get a good poster, it's synonymous with a movie that's been well crafted and is a good movie as well. And you will see that when you get, sort of the B-grade movies that knock off movies, they often knock off the same imagery from the posters. And it's like every time you knock something off, the quality goes down. And it's the same with posters, the same with movies. Now, I loved Brazil. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but could you tell what that was about from that poster?
No, definitely not.
Not at all.
Viola said Capricorn 1 was in the mid-70s. I think it was 1980, but don't quote me on that. Someone can find that. If remember, Aaron's sick, so let's not hang up on the dates. We're talking about a poster for a movie, whereas the poster was great, but the movie was crap. And the only one I could think of off the top of my head was Future Kill, if I'm right on that one, because they used H.R. Geiger artwork for it. And I remember seeing that movie, funnily enough, and I go, oh my God, that's awesome. It's one of his like Necronomicon bloody things. And they swiped it for that. And of course, the movie was complete tripe. So that one, I think, is an example where they're able to sort of steal. They probably paid a fortune so much for the rights to use the picture, the Geiger picture, that they couldn't afford the film, the budget for the movie.
The interesting thing about that is that would often happen on video covers because they do an absolutely amazing video cover and they put all the money into that. But to get a cinematic release, they had to pay a bit more. So they're not gonna do a cinematic release of and then put an amazing poster. They're not going to have the budget to do it. But yeah, I don't know where I'm going.
Yeah, I don't know where you're going with it either. Anyway, so a few people have said, like Moneybags has said, he's never seen either of these. The Capricorn one is they're totally different movies. Okay, I like this one here. It says here, the greatest adventure on Earth, and that, of course, is the key thing of what Capricorn 1 is. And Capricorn 1 is actually relevant even to today. It's all about faking a mission to Mars, right? And it's a drama movie. It's not a sci-fi movie so much. And it's one of those movies when you get to the last scene of the film, the very last scene, you want it to go for an extra minute, because it's like it is such a climactic ending. You go, what happens next? I really, really want to know. Whereas Brazil is set in a dystopian future and is really, really hardcore, where the whole world is dominated by bureaucracy and bureaucratic processes and all that sort of thing. That's the reason why you got all the filing cabinets. That's what the reference is for that. And he's trying to break away from the bureaucratic system that he lives under. And of course, things go completely haywire for the guy. So totally different movies. So Brazil, is Terry Gilliam's greatest movie. Oh, yeah, I would argue that as well. So, sorry, dude, go for it.
Yep, and Brazil is well worth catching at the cinema because it does come up once in a while. So if you haven't seen it, it is definitely worth checking out. It is one that's still relevant today as well, I think.
Yeah, by the same token, I agree with you. Brazil is a bit strange to me. It had a couple of sequences I found a little bit disturbing and I didn't really like, but the look and feel for it is actually very clever. And it does goes to show that if you live in a very, very highly bureaucratic, processed organization or world, one mistake can just change everything and or for a certain character. That's exactly what happened. So Capricorn 1 and Brazil are totally opposite movies, but Capricorn 1 is fantastic. If you wanted to fake a mission to Mars, how do you do it? That's what the crux is. And of course, we're all talking about going to Mars in real life. So if you wanted to fake it, how do you do it? And for that reason, is just absolutely ingenious and well worth checking out. Speaking of checking things out, even though the film tanked big time, and the poster artwork, take it or leave it, there's at least one version which I thought was absolutely gorgeous. And of course, it's the old Dunny, the old June, and I was a huge fan of this one over here. I loved it. I love this version with just the two moons and all the rest of it. It just was gorgeous. And I actually used that as a screensaver when I was at work for a long time. So, yeah.
Well, I did put this in for you, and I was going to ask you if you had a favorite version, and that is my favorite version too. And with what you were saying earlier, I think they actually detracted from the movie by putting all the text and all the stuff you have to read and remember on the movie poster. I don't know if the first one was a teaser and then they decided the audience needed education, but I thought the first one was a much better representation of the movie than the other ones.
Yeah, I totally agree. So you look at this one over here, right? And it tells me everything I need to know, right? I'm on a world with two moons. So it's a sci-fi movie. It is not Earth. Done. Nothing there more needs to be said. Then you get to all this, and I agree with all this text. No one's going to read all that. And they've chucked Sting in, even though he's a minor character. Okay, they've added this picture into here. And, of course, you get to this poster here with all the ships and everything. And it's like, nah, you've just ruined it, guys. It looks cheap. And, unfortunately, that just killed it. But I've always loved that one on the right-hand side. That, to me, is just like gorgeous because it's just so simple. So, yeah, very, very cool. Go.
Sometimes simple is better.
Fake a Mars mission film in the Aussie outback. Yeah, exactly right. Except so long as it doesn't rain, because when it rains, all the flowers bloom. That's the reason why they had to film Fury Road in Africa, for believe it or not, instead of outback Australia. So yes, the bureaucratic mentality is the only constant in the universe. Well, exactly right. Fill out an extra form. Especially these days, you can't do anything unless you sort of like log in and put in a password and whatever. And your money bags are saying he also likes the one on the right-hand side. That's all you needed. But, of course, they invested so much in June, they had to try and sell it to an audience who knew nothing about the movie or the story, who hadn't read the book. And, of course, that didn't necessarily work at all, which is particularly cool. So there you go. Yes, now, of course, with the movies that worked, I mean, if you've got actors who are, like, really successful, really, really, like, in the zone, well, of course, they're going to be prominent and up front with their imagery. And, of course, with Blade Runner, that's exactly what happened. Good old Harrison Ford popped up everywhere in this one.
He did. Blade Runner, they found a hard movie to market because it was a sci-fi film noir. Wasn't what everyone was expecting. Everyone was expecting a Star Wars action. I know when I went and saw it originally, I was massively disappointed because where were the rockets and the guns and stuff like that? What's interesting there, the one on the left is Stresemann painting, but it was released as an anniversary. It had originally been prepared, but they never used it, and I think it's quite a good version. You look at the one on the right, though, and you can really see that's a British one as well, that they really were just cutting images and putting them together. And I find that a bit strange that for such a high-profile movie, that poster was allowed out. You can see it's just like 3 pictures that have been cut out and pasted on a background and used as a movie poster.
Yeah, the main one in the middle is interesting. Now, it's one thing for those who may or may not have picked up on it. A lot of American posters don't have a white border; they print right to the edge, which is
Yeah.
particularly groovy. The fact that the artwork for Harrison and for Sean don't look that good, and the fact that she's holding the cigarette as well. Hang on, I've got my mouse to move. Holding the cigarette as well, which I thought, yeah, you wouldn't do that today. But it kind of works for what it is. I mean, it's a bit of a bizarro movie at the best of times. So, what bizarro poster to go with it? And
It is interesting. I do think, Harrison Ford's image is passable. The Sean Young image is not very flattering. I have actually seen fan where they've photoshopped the actual photo in, and it looks better than the artwork there, which is an interesting thing. But it is one of those things. Blade Runner is a hard movie to market, and I don't know what they could have done on the movie poster that would have given you an idea of what you were going to see in the actual movie. And maybe the thing with, Sean Young smoking there gives it a bit of that film noir look, but it's juxtaposed against like that futuristic city with the locomotive looking buildings at the bottom there. So really is not a surprise that Blade Runner didn't do so well when it originally came out.
yeah, well, of course, it came out in '82, and of course, it was cutting up against ET and even The Thing and all the rest of it. So, I can't recall seeing the Blade Runner 2049 poster to compare it with this one. And if you say, oh, the 2049 is still inferior to this, I don't really know. I can't remember. But yeah, it's sort of, I think you're right. They looked at it and they go, how are you supposed to promote this? It's all dark and it's like there's not a lot going on. It's always raining and et cetera, et cetera. So I reckon they were scratching their heads going, oh, we'll just chuck this in. Hope it'll work. And of course, at the time, it kind of didn't. Now, there's a comment here I've got to go back to, right? So this is referring to the next one. And I agree with this completely, right? This is how marketing works on the most simplistic level. So the vial said, Aliens, this time it's war, worked for me, right? And that, of course, brings up the teaser for Aliens. That's all you needed, just the word, because everybody knew it was the sequel to the first movie. And I thought that is, when I saw this, I saw this in movie and I thought, oh, dude, that is grouse, even though it's just shitloads of black. I love it.
It was grouse, and then James Cameron came in and put an extra half hour of grouse in the special edition.
That was years later. But you compare, it's funny, like you can't get more simplistic than that compared to this version, which is nothing wrong with it, right? But of course, there's spoilers everywhere here, right? So, okay, Ripley's got Newt, the character. They're clearly going to be amongst all the eggs. She's all hardened up with all the machine guns and all the rest of it. You go, it lost half the story already just in the one image. Whereas the one on the left, this one, doesn't tell you anything. It's just saying it's war. That's all you need. It's like, dude.
You can probably imagine James Cameron going, that's it, the black poster, and that's all we're using. And then the studio going, no, we got to give him more. We've got to give him more dynamic poster with Ripley in and stuff like that. But I agree with you. That is a fantastic poster.
Yep. Moneybags has said he's got it, and it's fantastic. And it's so funny because it is so simple that anybody who's not into aliens and whatever will look at it and go, well, that's just boring. It's like just a word. What does it mean? It's like, no, it's the meaning behind it. You don't need any pictures. You just need the word, right?
Yeah.
And it just told you, yes, there is a sequel to the first movie, and that's it. And I think it could probably win an award for its basic simplicity, which is kind of bizarre when you sit and think about it. So I love it.
Russell's quote would have worked. You could have just as well put Alien, game over, man.
Game over, man. Game over. Yeah, no, yeah. Oh, yeah, totally agree with you. And with the Predator ones and Predator 2, I don't know what you want to say about those.
They're interesting because obviously Schwarzenegger's the star, and you've got like his name in big lettering above the actual title of the movie. It's actually bigger. And then, of course, you've lost Schwarzenegger for the sequel, but they've elevated the actual Predator creature, which is a fantastic creature design. They kept it a secret for the reveal in the first Predator, but then it's the advertising point in the movie for the second Predator. So I think that's quite a logical step where they haven't put Glover or Busey on that poster. You've actually got the alien because he is now more popular than the actors in the movie.
Now, that's a very interesting point, and I just realized, so the Schwarzenegger across the top, right? Imagine, like, just picture a whole lot of movies that you can think of, whether they be, like, made yesterday or made 30 years ago, where the actor's name is plastered, actor/actress, plastered across the top, and is more prominent than the actual name of the movie itself, right? Now, imagine, as we said, like Harrison Ford is a superstar, Ford, right? And then it's, Air Force One. No, that doesn't work, right? Ridley, Star Wars: The Force Awakens. No, that's not. It just doesn't work for anybody. But because Schwarzenegger's name is so long, it actually fits really well.
Hemsworth, no.
Yeah, Hemsworth, Thor, right? It's like it just doesn't cut the mustard, does it? It's like no. It's like these days they put the actors' names in small text along the top.
Yeah,
and they obviously, because there's a lot of thing now about who goes first, and and like making sure everybody's sort of balanced out. But it's very hard to think of a scenario where you can say pick the actor's name, actor/actress, put their name above the name of the movie, and that's actually more important. You could have done it decades ago with Marilyn Monroe, Some Like It Hot or whatever. You probably could have done it then, but there's not a lot of people. Even the biggest stars, Tom Cruise, you probably wouldn't do it. Cruise, Mission Impossible, it still wouldn't work. So
it only works for action. It only works for Stallone or Schwarzenegger. They're about the only ones, I think.
I agree with you, Stallone. Yeah, I mean, Paul Lundgren, Master of the Universe. Nah. Although, and that's the funny thing about it. So, but yeah, it's interesting. His name was so big that they could just sell it on that alone, even though they included his picture. So, I reckon that's absolutely fantastic. I knew that as soon as I said who's on first, Angela said what's on second. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Good to see what he's paying attention. Now, one movie that did come out, this was 1980. I loved it, and the artwork. I hadn't seen a couple of the versions you're about to show, but I got to say, what you want to sell a movie is a shitload of color, and of course, you can't go past the old flashy Gordon, mate. How good's that?
Well, the fantastic thing about this is it really sells you the tone of the movie from the posters. You can tell you're going to get a camp, pulp, sci-fi action, and you can tell the character that Ming is going to be. You can tell the character that Flash and Dal are going to be. They are perfect posters for the movie that came out for them.
Once again, we're having a scenario, and I don't know where this came, because remember, this is 1980, so it's roughly around the same time as Empire Strikes Back, where Ming is more prominent than the heroes. So the bad guy takes up all the space. Now, in the Star Wars posters, Vader was quite big. But the fact that they're selling it on his image, like especially this one here, so you can clearly see there's Ming the Merciless there, and you can barely see Flash there, and that's it. So they've looked at it and said, oh, no, the bad guy is the one who sells it, not the good guy. Isn't that interesting?
I think they're right, though. I think he is a much more imposing image than a big picture of Flash Gordon would be. And I mean, Max von Sydow is a bigger name than Sam Jones, but Sam Jones was Flash Gordon. I mean, it's like Luke Skywalker is still a very prominent character on the Star Wars movies, even though Mark Hamill was probably pretty much unknown when those movies came out.
But the point being, when they did Empire and Jedi, Vader was still always the most prominent figure. He was always the big head in the background, as we saw earlier on. So they didn't change that. It's not like suddenly Luke and Leia are the prominent ones and Vader's this small thing. So for whatever reason, someone somewhere said, oh, no, you mark it on the bad guys, not on the good guys. And this poster here in particular is an excellent example of that. So, and then all they did is they put him on the rocket cycle. So, yeah, interesting. I'm just going to go backtrack a little bit, and I agree with what Guy said about the fact that with Predator, about living up to imagination, to the realization it's another alien movie. Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one, which is actually quite important. But yeah, with this, and of course, the other thing too is a selling point for the film was the fact that Queen did the soundtrack, right? Now, in this version here, right, it's just barely there, music by Queen. Whereas in this one, it's a lot more prominent. And I actually thought they might have actually plastered it right over the top here.
Yeah,
but yeah, they kept it. They made a bit of a thing about it. So yeah,
it is interesting. I think it is probably one of the biggest selling points now, because at the time you had to be into Queen, and I guess you had to enjoy the music. Where now the music has actually aged and it is a good soundtrack. So even people who might not have been into pop music at the time can appreciate that it is an amazing soundtrack.
I get that, but it's interesting comparing the posters where the one they've just chucked it into the back of the bottom, music by Queen, like it's an afterthought, and the other one where they've made a bit more prominent about it as well, which I thought was actually just an interesting observation, because the music by Queen, and because Queen were superstars at the time, was a bit of a big deal. So, but yeah, particularly groovy. Bad guy, muscular hero, scantily clad girl aimed at minute. Well, that was standard actually back then. It was by today's standards, some of these definitely sort of like don't really cut the mustard, and I can get you on that one. And I understand that. And But but to be fair though, I mean, good old even in this one, Flash is at least scantily, if you want to use that, not wearing much, and of course Dale is actually wearing more clothes than him, even though she's obscured by Flash himself, and of course Ming is fully clothed. But this version here, hang on, sorry, this version here where you got Princess Aura, yeah, I totally agree with you. They've sold it on the sex, no doubt about that whatsoever. So yeah.
Yeah, the actual movie, the female costumes in that are about as skimpy as you can get in a mainstream movie, though.
Yeah, well, when you have a Dino De Laurentiis picture, Italian background, and all the rest of it, they would have said, nah, strip them down as much as you can, get them as scantily clad, because unfortunately it does work, especially in the 80s, sex sells, and that was exactly the case. So,
and then they did say, and Sam Jones, here's your leather posing pouch for this scene as well, because he did wear some pretty revealing stuff too.
Very, very cool. Now, we were talking about teaser posters earlier, and of course, the key thing about a teaser poster is just one image. One image just sells the thing, right? Now, by today's standards, we know this image extremely well, but you got to remember at the time, this was brand spanking new for everybody. But just by looking at this one image, and there's 4 pictures, but we're just looking at the one image, you know straight away what the movie's all about. And of course, I'm referring to this one here, this logo here, right? Ghosts aren't allowed. And it just sells it, doesn't it?
What's amazing about that is such a strong logo. You know, they've got the Ghostbusters, who you're going to call on the first teaser image. For Ghostbusters 2, they don't even need any text, and you know what that movie is and what it's all going to be about. Whoever designed that is really genius, because that's a logo that came out in the 80s and will never, ever be unknown as to what it is.
Totally agree. And I think what also works for the logo is it clearly shows that it's fun, right? It's not like a ghost is an evil bastard, or he's got blood dripping out of him, he's got fangs and that sort of stuff. You can clearly see it's gone the happy pseudo Casper look, and for that reason, it's like everything's explained in the image, and I think that works. If you digitally remove that ghost and put something like a real hard ass, or something a lot more horrific, the whole story's changed, and suddenly the word Ghostbusters, it just doesn't cut the mustard. So. Yeah,
well, the other good thing is that they've used the Ghostbusters logo that they used in the movie for the franchise. If they had used the Marshmallow Man or something like that in the same kind of pose, it just wouldn't have been as good.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Now, with that in mind, it's actually now 10 o'clock, and we haven't even got halfway through what we're going to talk about. There's still 21 people watching, so we're going to keep going. Is your voice going to hold up? Are you happy to keep going?
Sure. Yep.
Yeah, we'll keep going for a little bit longer because we've got some really good stuff to show. And I think we're in the zone, and it's a Wednesday night and it's cold, and, you know, who gives a shit what's going on outside? Master Chef has finished for the night, so hopefully Carol's still here. And it's all particularly groovy. So we're going to move into something a little bit interesting. We're sort of heading into the fantasy realm here at the moment. And they've got a bit, when you get to that, you talk about Legend and good old Lady Hawk. I don't know where you put in Name of the Rose, but selling it on Sean Connery's face, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it's one of those things. There was almost a genre in the 80s where sort of, it happens a lot still, where one movie does good, so there's a whole lot of copycats. So you might get Dark Crystal or Legend, or one of those is a hit, or Willow or something, and then you get a whole lot of very similar Sword and Sandal or Sword and Sorcery type movies come along. Legend is an interesting one because I remember seeing that poster and not even realizing that that was darkness holding a crystal ball or something. I just thought it was a weird nebulous cloud or something like that, which is interesting. That sort of Ridley Scott movie, it was made around the same time as Blade Runner, and they even used some of the shots in this director's cut of Blade Runner from Legend of the Unicorns, I think.
Yeah, they did. And I think it was Tom Cruise's very first movie. He was like a child, like a teenager at that point. Just getting back to the Ghostbusters thing, 2 people have said exactly the same thing, which I tend to agree. These days, in particular, for the logo, you could have used Slimer, and as has been mentioned here as well, Slimer could have worked. And I totally agree with you on that one. But it's not Slimer Busters; it's Ghostbusters. So I guess by default, Slimer is one character, whereas ghosting is a lot of characters. So that's probably the logic behind it. The funny thing about Legend, of course, is that it had 2 soundtracks, one by Tangerine Dream and the other one by Jerry Goldsmith. It is, as was I've discussed with other people, one of the few films that actually looked like it was in a fantasy world, and I think it was absolutely awesome. Whereas Lady Hawk, with Michelle Pfeiffer and Rutger Hauer, I know that was a big hit with the women at the time because it was the love story of the ages. It was very, very popular. But as to whether the poster works, I actually had this poster too, and I don't know. It's bit of a tough
I
one.
never had the poster. I remember seeing the soundtrack and thinking, oh, that's a really weird image. If I was making that, it really doesn't give you an idea of what the movie is about. It definitely doesn't show any romance. I think Legend is a great example because the movie is a dreamlike movie, almost a fairy tale on an adult level, where Lady Hawk, I don't think they sold that as well. As if it had a better poster, it would have been a bit bigger movie. Lady Hawk has an interesting soundtrack too. We're talking about posters, but it is one of those where they went for the more modern soundtrack in a like a fictional, old-fashioned movie kind of jazz. And then Legend of the Rose is another interesting one where it is Sean Connery, but do you think that really looks like Sean Connery?
No, that's James Bond having a hard day at the office. What can I say? So, but yeah, they've clearly sold it on his image. So, yeah,
it's an interesting group of movies from that time, and of course there were others like Willow, which I didn't put in there. I probably should have because that is a fantastic poster, and a couple of other things.
Just quickly, so you got Sean Connery. We got Sean Connery's name there. F. Murray Abraham's there. Take Sean's face out. Put F. Murray Abraham's face in there. Do you reckon anybody would have gone for it? They would have gone, no one's going to see that.
No.
The guy just ain't popular enough.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, he wasn't big enough from Amadeus, was he?
No, unfortunately, because was, but that he didn't have that long history that say Sean Connery had. Angie said, "Lady Hawk, he loved that movie." A lot of women. I was in fandom at this point when that Lady Hawk came out. They loved it. They all really had a bit of a thing for it.
I loved Lady Hawk as well. I thought it was a fantastic movie. I wish it had done better than it did.
Yeah. It was an interesting sort of concept. And of course, Michelle Pfeiffer was so young in that movie, and you didn't really get to see a lot of her. It was more about him. And of course, that was when Matthew Broderick started to make his mark on the scheme of things. So,
well, the other interesting thing is Rutger Hauer isn't even on the poster.
Yeah, that's kind of ironic. And of course, the funny, as you said, Michelle, she's the mystery character of the whole lot in here. Yeah. And you're right. You really shouldn't be seeing her face at all. But I guess you've got one guy in there. You need to add the female in to sort of balance her out, and maybe that's the logic behind it. So there you go. This one, now into fantasy films, and these ones were massively successful, right? It was the right time in the 80s to bring these out. And, of course, one of them needed just a shitload of stuff chucked in. And, of course, we're talking about the old Dark Crystal, where they had to try and sell this, a film with no human beings whatsoever. And there you go. Whereas Labyrinth, it was easy. David Bowie, thanks for coming. Back up, go home, kids.
Exactly. I put Labyrinth with the Dark Crystal just because, they're all the hints and stuff. And I do think they are absolutely fantastic posters. A lot of posters, people would know they take existing text and, there's millions of versions of text they can use. But the Dark Crystal, even in the writing of the Dark Crystal, you get an idea of what kind of movie you're seeing. It's obviously a unique text that they've made up for the Dark Crystal, and you can kind of see the Skeksis weapons and stuff like that. So the whole poster is toned to get the audience ready to go into that world that they're going to see. Just from looking at the Dark Crystal, it's going to be a fantasy movie, and there's going to be amazing creatures, and it's going to be a colourful and fun ride. Labyrinth is kind of the same. You've got obviously David Bowie dominating the poster, much like he dominated the movie. And then you've got Jennifer Connelly as well. And then, it's almost her world is surrounded by all these amazing things that are in the labyrinth. But what I might like most of all about these posters is the background for the Labyrinth one is a labyrinth. When you look at it, that parchment is actually a maze. And then when you look at the Dark Crystal, you can see there's a parchment again. So they've almost got an extra level of artistic flair where the foreground, the background, and everything is working together to pull the art together and make a really iconic image for the movie posters. So I think these are all three of them are fantastic images.
You are right. It was interesting. Like, you got David Bowie up here clear as anything. Jennifer Connelly sort of been shoved down the bottom there. It's almost like an afterthought to a large degree. If you took her out completely and just had the castle thing going on, it probably still would have done quite well. And the interesting part is way up the top here. It's not saying Bowie, right? It just says Jim Henson, George Lucas, and David Bowie, right?
Yeah.
So take you to a dazzling world of a fantasy adventure. So they're selling the movie on the names. So it's got Jim Henson's work in it. Oh, that's going to be awesome. George Lucas. Oh, that's going to be awesome. And it's got David Bowie, as if you can't tell, he's right there. It's like they're selling it on the names, right? It's almost like the rest of it is like got a flown afterwards. Did you pick up on that?
Yeah, I did, and it isn't many producers and directors that you can sell a movie off their names. There's Spielberg, there's probably James Cameron and a couple of others, but you really have to be in that next level for a producer and a director's name to get onto the poster above the talent, like the artists and the actors.
Yeah, exactly right. So Rusky Babe said Labyrinth was a big flop. It may have been from a commercial perspective, but I know a lot of fans, even today, were huge. Well, that's bad English. A lot of people are still really devoted to it. And of course, having David Bowie was a massive selling point, and it did very, very well for that reason.
In Melbourne, they still have a Goblin's Ball once a year that sells out based on the themes from Labyrinth.
Yeah, exactly right. Dark Crystal, of course, was going to be a hard sell because there are, as I said, there are no human beings in it, right? Can you imagine the audience turn out going, well, I'm seeing the gelflings running around. Where are the dudes? Where are the real people? And of course, there aren't any. So I think they really had to push the envelope in terms of saying, well, we've got to make it this so appealing that people say, mate, I have got to see what this is about. And that's why I think the middle post and the one on the right, they've gone to town on that one. Now, whether it worked or not is another thing. I mean, Dark Crystal would have worked for some people and certainly didn't work for others. But yeah, you can see that simplicity just was never going to work. They had to just chuck it in and hope for the best and hope the audience bought it. And yeah, it's an interesting sort of catch-22. So one's got a superstar, as in like Labyrinth. You've got superstar David Bowie, bang, just market it on him. Whereas the other one, they've got to try and market it on the imagery, which is what it's all about. So, yeah.
So much harder.
Yeah, but Labyrinth, got the cult following. Yeah, exactly right. So, and it is handy to have a superstar in the show where you're catering to two audiences: fantasy fans as well as David Bowie fans. So,
yeah,
very, very cool. There is a difference between a labyrinth and a maze, is there? Okay, well, fair enough. But I get what Aaron means about the picture behind Bowie. So, yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Where are we? All right. Oh, here we go.
Now, this is interesting because you've got the original Conan the Barbarian movie there, and what's interesting about it, it is such an iconic movie image poster that there are a million sword and sorcery movies that have copied it. But the one I've highlighted there is European Vacation because the original movie poster is such an iconic poster. You can parody it in other genres and it still works just as well. So when you've got again, Schwarzenegger there, and you've got Conan, and you know it's going to be a barbarian movie. When you see the European Vacation, you've got Chevy Chase there and his family, all the stuff going on in the background. You know that vacation is going to be a trial for them.
I like the Goonies one because you show all the cast in one picture. I reckon that's very, very clever, actually. So I never saw the movie, but I do like the imagery. I think that's quite.
I remember I listened to the soundtrack, the commentary track on Goonies, where they had all the original Goonies, and I can't remember who is on the very bottom, but the actor or actress, whoever it was so proud they were on the movie poster, and then their family saw it, and then right down the bottom, there's just a tiny little image that you can't even tell is them. So for them, the poster wasn't like that fantastic.
Yeah, and the artist would have just been drawing this tiny, tiny, tiny picture as well. PJ's made a point of saying Beastmaster. Yeah, I don't think we have the person. We're just chucking out some random ones at the moment, and I don't think Beastmaster kind of made it. But the one thing about, and we'll like, this is what Chrissy was saying earlier about the scantily clad women and all the rest of it. With Conan the Barbarian, you can kind of get it because it was set in that sword and sorcery sort of age. European Vacation, I don't know. If you didn't really know what it was all about, you might be going, oh, hang on, this is pushing the envelope a little bit too hard. So, yeah, I don't know.
I think though, with what they were saying about Beastmaster and Sword and Sorcerer and all of those, it was such a genre that spun up in that like little amount of time because Conan was so popular and there was all these posters that mimicked it. By National Lampoon's then mimicking it in another genre, that's actually quite hilarious.
Very good. I've got a sneeze that is desperately trying to come out at the moment. It's really giving me the ear. So if I mute myself, you'll know why. But it's just been hanging. That's why I've got the sniffles. It's just like it just wants to come out. So
yeah,
very, very cool. And you are right. Yes, it does remind you of the Hildebrand Star Wars poster. Yeah, if you've seen that one, that's the one with Luke is a lot more muscular, and of course Leia, of course, got the long, the big bust and the leggy image and all that sort of thing. So. Yes,
Yeah.
sells kids. It's just the nature of the beast. But one thing they can sell, of course, is just photographs. Instead of all the fancy artwork, just bugger that, just chuck in a couple of happy snaps, and away we went.
Yeah, so these were all very successful movies. I always preferred artwork posters to photographic posters. We've shown a couple earlier with the Terminator and things like that. I think they work, and I think obviously they get the idea of what the movie's going to be from the photos that they use. Obviously, Eddie Murphy sitting on the bonnet of a car with the gun, and he's a cop, is obviously an unorthodox style cop, not your regular one. Die Hard with just Bruce Willis and the gun there. You know you're in for an action movie, and of course Top Gun with the planes in the background, and then Tom Cruise and Kelly McGillis there. What do you think of the difference between art and photograph? Do you have a preference, or it just depends on how they're used?
Well, I mean, clearly they've when they market these things, they've done some market research, and they go, "Well, we don't need to spend millions of dollars doing a painting of Eddie Murphy. We just get him sitting on top of a Merc. And okay, it's a convertible Merc. He's got the gun, and it's just a Beverly Hills cop. And maybe that's enough to say, well, okay. I mean, dare I say they're playing the racism thing? You know, it's the black guy in a predominantly white sort of part of town. Maybe that had something to do with it. And of course, you got the text at the top as always. And with Die Hard, I mean, he got this thing, the 12 terrorists, one cop. You don't even need to know that. You could just take all that out and just have the picture of Willis with the gun. Now, of course, at this point, he was big in moonlighting, right?
Yeah.
So the fact he's appearing in a movie with a gun and be like, oh, that's interesting, Die Hard, that's really, really cool. So for that, you kind of need the photograph. I think that really works. As for Top Gun, I don't know. I mean, it's actually the plane is more important than the people. So you could almost like shrink these two down, right down, and have the plane being the more predominant feature, and that might have actually done it. So they're very, very well thought out. They tell you everything you need to know in a relatively simplistic way, and of course, producing them would have cost them next to nothing because they're just photographs. So that's how I sort of see it.
One of the interesting things with the, I guess, the capacity and capability of Blu-rays now, when you get the extra packages, sometimes you will get the media packages, and a lot of the time you'll see posters and concepts that weren't used. And what I find really disappointing is sometimes where they've gone with a photographic poster, you look at all this artwork that was prepared and could have been used, and they just didn't use it at all. And that's what happens, you know, sometimes they'll find it and it'll come out on a special anniversary edition. But I like some of the photographic posters, but generally I like the artistic ones and the painted ones better.
Yeah, one thing that he said about the photographic ones, they tend to, like, they serve the purpose, but do you want to put them on your wall? Probably not, right? Because it's like, you know, I don't need to see Eddie Murphy's head looking at me or Bruce Willis. The art is art because it's the time and effort that's been put into it. A photograph has just been chucked in, even though Rusky Baby said, and I do agree with him, that the photos have probably had hours of retouching, and it probably took them 100 hours just to get the photos. Or hold the gun this way, hold the gun that way, do this, do that, until they've worked out what they want, stick it together, and away you go. But art implies someone's time and effort has gone into it, and it's unique as opposed to a photograph, which you can get from anywhere. So, yeah, it's an interesting sort of way of looking at it. So, even Moneybags is talk about. I mean, Top Gun was about the planes, more about the people. You could almost substitute the people, just have the planes and the footage and all the rest of it. That's what really sold it, I think, rather than story. Certainly not the story I would have thought, and not the cast. It was mainly the planes and the footage of them. Remembering this was in the 80s too, and of course the 80s, the Cold War was still going, the anti-Russia sentiment was still going. People loved the US military, and of course, the Air Force with the jets. And I think it was long before JAG and all those sort of shows. So footage of planes in the military were quite rare, I think, for a film. Modern planes, I mean. And I mean, you had the final countdown and all the rest of it. You saw some of it there, but in Top Gun, it's like it's in your face. And I think that had something to do with it. So yeah, you could have just sold the posters with the planes and nothing else. Very, very groovy. Even Phil said, art is usually better. Yeah, absolutely. Oops, sorry, wrong button there.
With what you were saying about photoshopping posters as well, it is an 80s movie, but I didn't put it up. The Pretty Woman poster, it's photos, but it's got Julia Roberts' head and it's got totally other people as her legs and body, and that's quite well known.
No, I agree. But I'm saying Rusky Babes, I'm not saying to use like a Polaroid camera. As I said, it would have taken a lot of time and effort, right? But I can't imagine it would have cost as much as someone actually physically painting it. They wouldn't have just painted one picture and said, there you go, we're going to go with that. They might have painted multiple pictures. But in terms of the physical time to do it, it would have been a lot easier. And the end result, it served the purpose clearly, But from a collector's point of view, I can't imagine anybody saying, "Oh, photographic posters." In most cases, like we saw with Beverly Hills Cop and Die Hard, saying, "I'll pay $1,500, $2,000, $3,000 for one of those." I don't think so at all. So, but
Yeah.
that's sort of my view on it anyway. So, very, very cool. You've obviously come in a bit late. We actually covered off Back to the Future a bit earlier. So, yes, Mr. or Miss 404. Sticking with the photograph theme, though, we haven't finished quite yet because for Lost Boys, it does kind of work using all the photos. What do you reckon?
Yeah. So again, I think these are good uses of photographs for movie posters. Again, the Beetlejuice one is obviously, artistically manipulated and changed about, but it gives you the idea of what it's going to be about. It's going to be sort of a kooky, zany movie about ghosts, and Beetlejuice is going to be always a hard movie to market from that name. The Lost Boys is another fantastic one where you've got these images, and they're probably, edgy boys, lost boys. You've got the red in the background and the black and white images, and it's a vampire movie. So it's a really good, strong poster for the actual film. And then the Blues Brothers is interesting because the Blues Brothers would probably be quite a hard movie to advertise. And so all you can really do, you've got the Blues Brothers and the car, and you've got Detroit in the background kind of thing. But it's a really good photo and really does actually sum up what you're going to see in the movie.
Yeah, I agree with you with the Blues Brothers. I reckon they were scratching their heads going, yeah, how are we going to do this one? But he's meant to sell the film, right? You get the trailer, and there's this, and that's it, right? And you go, okay, people have to see it based on this. And, of course, the word Blues Brothers doesn't mean anything. So what do you do? And it was probably a bit of hit and miss, but it seemed to work.
What I'm really glad about that one is in the 70s, if it had been released, it would have probably been an Animal House type poster. And I don't know if people know that, but it's got, millions of things happening on it, almost comic book people pouring out of houses. And I could imagine they could have gone that way with like cars and police and buildings and the army and everything. So I think that's actually quite a stylish poster for the Blues Brothers.
Yeah, it certainly suits the style of the movie. There's no denying that. And, of course, you've got Beetlejuice on the left, which we haven't touched on. Like they've chucked in everything. I guess they kind of had to because the word Beetlejuice means nothing. So what do you reckon? They said, okay, we have to sort of show that it's kind of a bit wacky. It's a bit crazy. You can clearly see it's set inside a house. Yes. What do you reckon?
Well, I do think that's interesting because they're trapped inside the house, but really the house is trapped by the ghosts as well. So having the house small and the ghosts around it is quite a smart thing to do. And then the actual main characters are very small at the bottom, and that's works really well because Beetlejuice character is so strong and overwhelming. You get an idea of what the movie's going to be, or at least kind of what it's going to be from the poster, and that's a hard sell, Beetlejuice.
I totally agree here, and I was looking at this earlier, and I thought, I wasn't going to say anything, but someone's beaten me to it, and this is Carol about the fonts and the logos, and you can imagine the amount of time and effort they went into putting all these logos together. I mean, the Lost Boys one, which is what Carol's referenced there, is really unique, and it just... I mean, you could probably use a different font and nobody would have cared because it's not what you're looking at, but it does actually work for what you're trying to do. So I do agree that there's probably hundreds of hours spent just working out what fits, what doesn't fit, and what will actually stick in people's brains, because that is the whole psychological part of marketing and merchandising. Moneybags, you are right. It's Chicago, not Detroit, but Aaron's crook, so we're letting him off the hook. I mean, it's supposed to be 80s posted. He was chucking in movies from the 70s and the 90s and all the rest of it, so we're cutting him some slack. There you go. And PJ, you're right. Blues Brothers bring out on Saturday Night Live, but not everybody had seen Saturday Night Live, especially here in Australia. Remember, there was no internet. It's like it gets out here and it's like, okay, what's the Blues Brothers? Nobody's got any idea. So the poster really had to sell it. So very, 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 very cool. Now, we're going to get into horror posters, but it is now 20 past 10, so we'll be going for an hour and 20 minutes. We might hit the brakes. What do you reckon, dude?
I think my voice is going to go, so maybe we'll wind up and maybe I'll find some more posters and we'll do a 2-part 80s poster thing and continue next week.
Well, I don't know. So now that I know your voice is going to break, I'm going to keep going until you crack, son. I want to put you under the pressure. I want to see you crawling. I want to talk. Have some custard, dude. Slam some custard. If you didn't see it earlier, Aaron was eating some Mandalorian custard, freshly squeezed Grogu's. Yeah, bring it up. There we go. Look at that. Even though he said it's a little bit liquidy now, it's a little bit gross. So, but I want to see Aaron push to the brink, mate. Harden up, you wuss. Come on, mate. You could talk about one more poster. So there you go. What do you reckon, eh?
We can go or we can end up. It's up to you, mate.
No. We're going to finish it up. So we've actually done really, really well. We've run overtime like you would not believe. And I have appreciated the fact that people stuck around. There's a huge discussion you could have about these. And because what we're doing is doing what you have at parties when everybody gets together and they say, oh, what do you ever think of that? What do you ever think of that? Or you see someone's poster on a wall and you talk about it and you analyze it and all the rest of it. And it goes to show that a lot of these things don't happen by accident. There's a lot of time, thought, and energy put into them, whether they be simplistic or whether they be really complicated, whether they be artwork or photographic. There's a lot going into them. And of course, they're so memorable that, of course, Aaron picked them all out to show in this show. So decades after, when they've served their purpose, there's still a time to bring them back and for people to say, yep, I remember that one, or I've got that one, or I really like that one. So there's a fair bit involved than what most people realize. So there you go. Any final words before we sign off for tonight, Mr. Aaron?
No, thanks everyone for being here. Like Dag said, it's been a long one, but it's been a fun discussion. Thank you for putting up with my my voice at the moment. It's not fantastic. I hope everyone's enjoyed seeing the posters. If we've missed any that you'd like to see, if we're going to continue this next week, send me or Dags a message and we will include them in next week's show.
Very, very cool. All right, guys, and leave you to it. In the interim, make sure with your movie posters, do not glue them to the backboard of the frame and do not get them laminated. All right, make sure that they're still mint in pristine condition is the only way to go. Okay, so let's see you later, guys.
Or stick them to the back of the toilet door with blue tack.
Oh, put pins in the damn thing. Blue tack.
No, not even I would do that.
Oh, you're making me feel sick. Just think, bring out the custard, dude. I'm losing my load over that one. Oh no. All right. All right, leave it to it, guys. No, sticky tape, mate, on the sides. Catch you guys. Have fun. Okay, bye.